Hello and welcome to Cassandra Carol Dyson Spiritual Advice. This is the Higher Fish. My name is Patrick. I'll be on that sometimes, y'all. There are two things that my mother drilled into me from the Bible growing up. The first being, if you have faith the size of a grain of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. The second, she would always say, the Bible says warning comes before destruction. And y'all's been warned. I don't know what that means, but I make sure to give plenty warning. Also, I'm listening to my peaceful meditations playlist right now. So let me chill out. Let me chill the frig. I was trying to set this thing up, and apparently I just broke my mama little ring light phone stand thing, so I'm probably going to have to replace that. Even though she never uses it. And she has a tripod. She might have two tripods. And this thing. But none of those have ringlets on them. But anyway, I don't really want anything today. I accidentally uploaded to my legacy channel because that's what I was browsing on my phone. And I was outside, probably a good 15% still asleep. You could probably hear it in my voice. And I didn't even change it. I just went to upload. And so I might start doing that, do little bits over there, and then actually go in over here. And I'm surprised it was so short. I'm a fan of that energy. Not necessarily too much doing anything today. If you couldn't tell I kind of want to cook low key. I got most of the spices that I need. We have tomatoes and onions. My friend was like, you have all of the base spices for any Indian dish. If you got rice, you can make something work. Plus, I would have to soak the beans overnight. But if I get a good gravy and some rice, then that's all I need, really. So maybe I might go in there and try to work a little something. I might go see. Again, I don't know what this is today. We just gonna go for it like we do every day. Is that the Archangel of Mysteries at the bottom of the deck? It is. The Archangel of Mysteries at the bottom of the deck. Girl, I can't even. I'm gonna have to do this now. The Archangel of Mysteries, because my little thing broke. And actually, this doesn't look extremely bad. Right? Ooh, two cards. We'll see what's up. How y'all doing today? I feel like I really say that. The cards that were on the table were the thumbnail cards. I remember seeing Temperance, the Wheel of Fortune, the Nine of Cups at the base, and I don't remember what else was on there. I would say if you've done the work, if you've been alchemizing, that will maybe turn in here. Or yes. But it also feels like we're about to be doing some real gradual, incremental type-ish. Pallas. I looked at the transits. We got Pallas and Jupiter at 23 degrees Capricorn. The moon was at 8 or 9 degrees Capricorn, so it may be 9 degrees Capricorn right now. Pluto is almost 23. It's 24 degrees on the nose. Capricorn. Saturn is 29. Mars is about 4 degrees Aries, I believe. Look at me talking about transits like I'm some kind of astrologer. And yeah, I don't know. I've been feeling that Pallas is a major player this time because the transits, a lot of the Capricornian energy is kind of the same. I believe at the time Mars was in Capricorn, but now Mars is in Aries, and so instead of Mars being a major player, and I think it was earlier in Capricorn too, but now it's in Aries, so that's a square right there. Now, it's not going to be necessarily like super directly squaring anything. Mars is squaring the moon right now until the moon moves later into Capricorn. It would be about like over 20 degrees off of that like exact square. So like it's kind of sort of there lingering in the background. We're going to be moving into a Mars Palette square, I guess, here pretty soon. And Mars being, associated with Aries, Pallas being associated with Athena, you have like the god of war squaring a goddess of war. But Athena's like the goddess of strategic war. You could say good war, just like strategy in general. Also handicraft, apparently. Can I get one more? No, that's it. Just how we doing. All right, let's see what's up. Bottom of the deck is this Page of Swords, stronghold of the Zephyrs, and this is her message right here. The stronghold of the Zephyrs. Now the bottom of the deck is the Eight of Swords. Oof, the capital. Where's her message? Where's it going right now? Our message is the Four of Wands. Interesting. Okay. What does this mean, though? Y'all can't even see these. See, that's the thing about this. You can kind of sort of see them up there. We'll just leave them there. So the Page of Swords is the messenger of the unformed lands. Right? And she's bringing the Four of Wands. So this could be something that we've been conceptualizing for a while, is now about to have enough oomph to take root or to come back. If there's been a space of deliberation, we've reached a verdict, and we're coming to issue it. I was like, what do you call the verdict? After it's been reached, it's still a verdict. Now we're coming to issue the verdict. Maybe this is the warning. The Bible says warning comes before destruction. It isn't always destruction. When would she say that? It would be like whenever like you like intuitively you just know something ain't right. And I'll go to her, I'm like, I ain't gotta like something don't feel right about this. Or she'll be like, something told me not to go along with this. I should have followed my first mind. The Bible says warning comes before destruction. Where would the warning have been? January? I don't know. Let's just get into this. I'm going to start up here. I want to do one of these. Archangel of Glory. Oh, and the Sacred Fire. Okay, let's stop there. So we got the King of Wands and the Ace of Wands. This is already giving me like higher perspective and lower perspective. Whatever this is that has been in the unformed lands, whatever is about to manifest, y'all can kind of sort of see him. That's Archangel of Glory, by the way. I'm just going with it today. We have everything at our disposal to most effectively use whatever it is we've had queued up. Because I don't know if y'all watched, but last night I was talking about, sometimes when you have these big portals or these big events, what will happen is it will release a lot of stuff that you already have queued up, right? So if you've been accruing karma, or if you have karma queued up, you'll probably get hit with that karma before you get anything you're trying to manifest or anything you're trying to set forth or release with this full moon lunar eclipse. If you have something good for you queued up, you'll get that. And it's like the work that you put behind a thing determines the position that it has in the queue. So I don't know if it's necessarily too much anymore. Like, you can just like wish for something and then get it, like with the law of attraction. Because Because in some ways, it's almost like the law of attraction is like, in some ways, it's always applicable, but in some ways, it's like the law of attraction is manifestation 101, right? Or at least the idea that we can say affirmations and put out good vibes and then the thing will come to us. We graduated from that. Or we're in the process of graduating from that. And so in comes like manifestation 102, where we align ourselves mentally with it, spiritually with it, but now here we're like kind of sort of putting in some action. And so that's why it's a gradual process. Like this Four of Wands is like a Wheel of Fortune, but it's a smaller Wheel of Fortune. It's a baby wheel. It's a little wheel. This is a wheel that it's like, before I give you a monster truck, I'm gonna put you on one of these little like pedal cart things where like you have to pedal. It looks like a car, but it's super small and you gotta pedal it and you get it for kids. I ain't even gonna go there. It's like that. So it's gonna be getting probably a little bit more difficult in the sense of like things may not come as easy as they necessarily did before, but they'll get easier as we really come into this energy and as we again prove ourselves responsible. Right? It's like with great power comes great responsibility, and it's time for us to prove ourselves responsible before we're given that power. Also, I looked at my nails earlier. Oh, hey, Nini. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say they abused it. It's just like, we've grown out of it. People were asking for too much. And when you ask for more, you have to do more. Right? It's like you ask for a promotion, so now you got to do more work. So it's not that you necessarily abuse it, we're just getting a promotion. Ah! I mean, it was pretty easy for me, so I don't know. But yeah, with this, I wouldn't necessarily say it's about abuse. It's just that, like, you ask for an upgrade. And when you get the upgrade, it's kind of like I was saying with the Four of Zones, where it's like there are certain things that you have to learn. And then it's like we turn you loose to create on your own. Right? So it's time for us to begin to create on our own. Excuse me, to take the next step of like being the next evolution and being a co-creator. It's like some of it you do more yourself. And so with this King of Wands up here, I'm almost feeling this is an upper and this is a lower. It's like we have everything within us to be capable. If you're getting this and you're getting this Ace of Wands and this Four of Wands, the Sacred Fire and the Demiurge. What is a Demiurge? I feel like a lot of times I hear it does not sound good, but let's see. Hey Siri, define Demiurge. Girl! Oof! Oof! Demiurge is a being responsible for the creation of the universe. So, ooh. Well, then that's why. Also, in Gnosticism and other theological systems, a demiurge is a heavenly being subordinate to the supreme being that is considered to be the controller of the material world and antagonistic to all that is purely spiritual. Okay, so it's antagonistic just because it's a controller of the physical world, the material world. And a lot of people with duality tend to pit material against spiritual, when in reality, nothing exists on the material without predecessor in the spiritual. So, but man just tends to get wrapped up in material matters, overly consumed by it, and underly concerned with spiritual ones. So, in Platonic philosophy, it's the maker or creator of the world. So this is really, really intense creator energy. Ooh, 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 ooh. I love these cards. There's a reason why the Weaver Tarot just wasn't working today. Ow. And I was actually feeling called to these earlier and I forgot, but then I picked them up. So the Demiurge is literally like, yeah, so exactly that. I'm glad I looked up the definition because this is the next evolution. We're getting a little bit more of a creative power. And that, I don't remember what it was called. But whenever the four zones came out, and I was all like, before you want to start doing unicorns and magic and stuff like this, you really need to know the foundations and the basics of realm building. Because before you do anything fancy, it's like you don't want to violate any sort of rules and honestly, it's just like a lot of it keeps it stable. So if you're manifesting something, but you can't stabilize it, like either you'll get it or you'll lose it, or it'll never be stable enough to even come down in the first place. So it could also be that this is the end goal and this is where we're starting. We're starting at the ace, and here is this king right here. Now, if we're holding the ace, we may not necessarily have to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? We may be able to go right to the page, depending, because it's like the page, the knight, the king, and the queen are what you do with that ace. And then here's the ace we're being presented with, the sacred fire. This is a sacred ability. And that's another reason why a lot of the shadow has to be purged in the collective right now, because we can't come into this functionality with all of the ego and the stuff right now. Because then it's like you get how many people on the planet? Like over 7 billion people in creator functionality trying to create their own personal paradise that has no room for anybody else in it. Right. Or you get people who are like super twisted and demented, and their own personal paradise is being able to go out and take any kind of life they want with no kind of repercussion. Like some people really try to be on that purge level ish. Like, come on. And unfortunately, sometimes it's people like that who take either military positions or policing positions or other positions of authority, right? Some people want power to abuse. And there's no real, like, it never really mattered. So there's no real, I feel like there's not really a concern of who. Like, I've never gone through the policing process or the military process. I told the little army recruiter dude when he called me after I was a certain age, I was like, I'm not interested and I'll never be interested. Like, well, he was like, well, can I get your information just in case if you're ever interested? I'm like, no, I'll never be interested. You ain't going to get me out there taking lives. I don't think so. Anyway, it's like you will get some really, really sick stuff. And it reminds me again, I think I've talked about it, but I had a dream and it was some Adventure Time looking dream. But there were like these little bear looking things. I forget what I called them. And then there were some other things. And there was this space, the sacred space. And the people who approached me were originally in that space, but um, some other group of beings came in and took the space over. And they wanted me to go in and kick them out of the space, basically. And in this space, like whatever you desired came to be. It was like manifestation with a lag time of 0. Like as soon as you thought it, boom, it was there. But there was they weren't evolved yet enough to the point where anything substantial would manifest in that space. So it was super chaotic. And they were looking at me like, see, look at what they're doing with the space. Like, they don't know how to use it. Ain't no kind of cohesion, ain't no stability. Things are wild, things are crazy. Like, they're not ready for this. And I can't remember in the dream if I ended up trying to kick them out or not. I think I ended up trying to be peacemaker in that dream. I think I was. I might have been like, well, why don't you try to teach them to use the space instead of just kicking them out of the space? But in a space like that, girl, we ain't got time to be teaching people. You need to learn how to use this space before you come into this space. Because one slip up, girl, if you get a B on this test, it can mean that somebody done manifested Sharknado because they was watching Sharknado. No, now we're dealing with Sharknado. I'm like, oh my gosh, who manifested this? Who in the collective manifested Sharknado? Why do we have a Sharknado problem? It's like goodness. So it's kind of sort of like that. But it's at the same time, I don't know if this is us proving ourselves responsible or if this is us saying, or if this is the message that the first way I felt it was that we're plenty responsible and we have all of the tools and the knowing at our disposal already. We're just going to be proving and remembering how to do all this. But we're already capable with this King of Wands, Archangel of Glory up here. And he is the angel of arts and grace, which is interesting. The angel of art and grace, as we're talking about creating and building with this demiurge and the Four of Wands. And if the demiurge is the ability, like creators of worlds, it's like, again, with the Page of Swords, the messenger from the unformed lands, bringing this demiurge, the things that were unformed, the things that were just mental and speculation, are now coming to be. Like, this is what the messenger from the unformed lands is bringing. Like, prepare to see that vision, girl. And if it's a dream, you made it. If it's a nightmare, you made it. You made your own personal little nightmare when you made whatever decision or refused to do whatever both. But honestly, like, this isn't a space that you get into with any amount of shadow. It's kind of sort of, again, speaking to that luminous void that I've been feeling. One of those places and one of those spaces where the shadow cannot exist as a shadow. Let's see. We'll do these two, and then we'll see what comes in between. Ooh, the gardener. I love that. That speaks to an element of cultivation. The 7 into the 8 of orbs, the gardener and the journeyman. This is a gift and ability that we've been cultivating. And I don't know who. See, on this channel, I think I may start to use my legacy channel again. But this channel is going to be for like my advanced folks out there. Or not even the advanced folks, because when this energy comes, girl, this feels like very, very, and like the whole gosh darn demiurge came out with the mess, like that was the message. So, like, beings with the ability to literally create worlds, or at the very least, to literally create something in the physical purely with their spiritual ability, right? And remember, I've been talking about we're going to be learning how to give our mental and spiritual creations enough weight to come into the physical. And I literally use this card as an example of that. I'm going to read the entry for you because it's literally in this card. Oh my gosh, this is intense. This is some real powerful ish, y'all. It's some real powerful ish. I don't know if too much necessarily everybody gonna be on this level, but Mimi showed me that blue storm, y'all. That blue storm is coming. Everything I've been speaking. We may about to start living here pretty soon. But that's the thing, like my mom says, the Bible says warning comes before destruction. So I've been preparing myself for this since February. Because that's when I began, and I've talked about it so often. But that's when I began to feel that spirit is going to be pulling back. Like, you may think that spirit is listening, but spirit, I don't know. For some people, they might be. For the folks still in like elementary school, they might still be. And it's not like to be like to create a hierarchy or anything. It's all dependent on the work that you're willing to do and where you are spiritually and your path. So if you're still in like spiritual elementary school, then things may not necessarily too much change for you. But if you're like taking your It's like you have an exam. I know in some countries, some Asian countries, I know in Japan specifically, I think, let me clarify that real quick. I think that in Japan, they have like tests that you take to see like what high schools you'd be able to prepare or to go to, right? It's like, and I know one of my professors told me because I took a lot of Japanese classes and we were talking about study abroad. Um, I almost studied abroad in Japan twice, and I almost did an exchange program in China. So didn't take any of those opportunities. My girl Zion, there is a gear program, and with the gear program, basically it's kind of sort of like a cultural exchange program mixed with an internship. And she wanted me to do it with her, and I was extremely interested, but I just didn't do it. I saw her at McDonald's that one day, girl. And it might have been at one of those hours where all the drunk people are at McDonald's. I wasn't drunk, but I just wanted some McDonald's, and it wasn't extremely far from where I live. And back in the days where I could walk in the dark, I just walked to McDonald's at like 4 in the morning because that's what time they started serving breakfast. And the lady was like, "Do you want a cherry pie with that?" And there's this thing with me sometimes where words don't sound like words. And so instead of cherry pie being 2 words, it sounded like she was saying it like it was 1 word. And I was like, cherry pie. Like, what's cherry pie? Like cherry pie or something like that. Like, what's a cherry pie? What's a cherry pie? She's like, it's like a pie. No, it was apple pie. Because y'all know McDonald's used to have them apple pies back in the day. My mom and my brother would get them all the time. I'm not a fan of pie, so I never got them. She's like, would you like apple pie? Apple pie? Apple pie? Apple pie? I'm like, what's apple pie? She's like, it's like a pie, but with apples. I was like, oh, an apple pie. Like, no, no thanks. She probably thought I was one of the drunk ones. I'm like, girl, it's 4 in the morning, and I stayed up 2 hours past my bedtime because I was really craving like a McGriddle and a hash brown. Don't judge me. What was I talking about? Um, yeah, I saw her gear Japan. So there, it's like they treat high school kind of sort of like we treat college, and so the university over there may be a little more lax because again, it's like our college university experience is closer to their high school experience, where their high school experience is a lot more academically intense and stuff like that. But when you get to college and university, it's a little bit more lax. And that's not the case over here. Anyway, there's these exams that before you go to middle school and before you go to high school and before you go to university, you take this exam to see where you'll get placed. And some people are still in elementary, and so if you're still in elementary, then like your interaction with spirit may not have necessarily too much changed. But again, if you're in elementary, one of your big paths or journeys now may be like really learning the law of attraction and getting the law of attraction to work for you instead of against you, right? And for some people, that is a huge, maybe even lifelong journey to finally be able to like work with your mind to get you to be where you want to be instead of working against your mind. There are so many people who work against their mind for like so long, right? And if that's where you are, it's where you are. There's no shame in it. But if you're coming into like this, now this is probably honestly like university level. If we're talking, especially talking about this demiurge energy with that sage of zones energy, this is probably again like it's a limited, I have a limited perspective to work with down here because like if you're operating in the 3D after 3D, this is like pretty far above what you'd be able to do. Because it's like the best, like the hottest thing popping we had down here for a long time was The Secret, was the law of attraction, was manifesting, right? Getting your mind to work for you. This is kind of sort of on the level of spirit, right? And this would be like it's not sublimation. What's the opposite of sublimation? Hey Siri, what is the opposite of sublimation? This is like a deposition. And sublimation is when you go from a gas immediately to a solid. Deposition is when you go from no, when you go from a solid immediately to a gas, that's sublimation, right? That's like if it's so hot in a certain area that you put an ice cube in and it immediately turns to water vapor, like no water phase in between. It go from ice cube to water vapor gas, right? And then boiling is when you go from a liquid to a gas. That's when you take liquid water into gaseous water, you know. Deposition is when you go from a gas to a solid. And this is deposition energy. We're going immediately from spirit with the gas to something physical with the solid. I should know. Well, no, because it sometimes you hear deposits and you be like, oh, it's like something dried up. Yeah, deposition. So let me get back to this 8 of orbs and I'll read it for you. The journeyman crafts an orb and manifests it between her gloved palms. This is the practitioner building up fundamentals in a specialized craft, learning to manifest orbs of concentrated power. At her crown is an orb. Hold up, wait. Let me zoom in a little bit. At her crown is an orb symbolizing her potential and the untapped power she wields, but perhaps is not yet aware of. Displayed along the right side is a vertical line of 5 orbs that the journeyman has completed, symbolic of a strong work ethic, discipline, commitment to cultivation, and hard work. One orb has been set into a master's staff, symbolic of what this adept will someday be capable of achieving. Okay, so already this tells me this would be elementary school that's done. This is her doing her little like her middle school test, so then she can get into high school, right? Or we could call this like elementary and middle school. This is the high school test, and then this would be university. Yeah, that feels accurate. That feels more accurate. This is like elementary and middle school right here. This is high school. This is college and university, right? This is the initiate. This is the test of the adept. That's coming into mastery. Down the journeyman's. Hold on, wait. Did I finish that? Yeah. The master staff, symbolic of what this adept will someday be capable of achieving. Down the journeyman's forehead, through the bridge of her nose, is the runic symbol Algiz, or girl, I'll just do it. I can't pronounce these. Emblematic of the antlers on an elk and a powerful sigil for protection. And it's interesting because in the wild unknown, the elks, the deer, they are their family is the Suit of Pentacles, and this is the Suit of Pentacles. So you know they line up. This is a symbol of one who is successful in the quest and one who reaches hands upward to commune with the divine. On her right cheek, the onlooker's left, is the runic symbol Menaz, man, or human intellection, ingenuity, and creativity. On her left, the onlooker's right, is Kenaz, the rune that casts light upon the shadows, to know and to understand, to possess the gift of sight. Sorry. Behind her, the dark woods. Can you see the forest through the trees? When the journeyman appears in a divinatory reading, the seeker must discern a holistic pattern from the current details. Look to the bigger picture. Let's see. Yeah, I don't need that. Let me see. What about this? Okay. Yeah, I'll actually read this. And I'll read this first. Oh my gosh, look at this, y'all. Y'all see this? Y'all see that owl? Maybe. Can y'all see the owl? The owl symbol of Minerva, of Athena, talking about Pallas being in Capricorn right now. Capricorn being cardinal Earth. So that's interesting. I'll read this first. Here, the forest in which the journeyman dwells is sacred and therefore signifies apprenticeship in the mysteries. The journeyman is the beneficent that will help you in your interactions with nature or land spirits, fairies, or wildlings. The sacred grove here is also emblematic of asylum, refuge, and a sanctuary. The forest of the journeyman is the sanctuary for you to path work or astral project into if you seek focused mental concentration. Um, I read that specifically for apprenticeship in mysteries, and the Archangel of Mysteries was the card at the bottom of the deck at the very beginning when I was like, is that the Archangel of Mysteries? And it was. The Archangel of Mysteries is the angel who illuminates the shadow. The Archangel of Mysteries is the only angel permitted to walk the realms above and below and the middle realms in between. And she's one of the angels responsible for guiding lost souls stuck in lower realms and to help them get to upper realms. But it's interesting that down here is the 8, while up here is the 7. Because I would think it's the other way around. This is some like very, very interesting and very, like, this is like very, like, girl. Like when they say that, like in the Bible, when Jesus said all of these things and more, like all of the miracles that Jesus performed, we'd be able to do that and more, like bigger. When they say that we're sparks of like the creator, where we have that creator energy, like this is the level of what they're talking about. To literally have your will be manifest. What about the 7 up here? Okay, so what this is telling me is, again, this is some advanced level ish right here, right? And honestly, on the grand scheme of things, like this could be intermediary. Like this could be intermediary level, and then when you get to advanced, it's like instead of creating like Jeeps, because I'm on Jeeps for some reason, instead of creating Jeeps, like let's talk about creating entire planets. Let me stop. And then they'd be like, well, the difference, like there kind of sort of isn't a difference between creating a Jeep and creating a planet, right? If you can create a single grain of rice, you can create anything. It just gets more intricate and complex as you go along. And it requires a lot more, at the same time. So I'm not gonna, whatever. Um, I had it and then I lost it. This, okay. So it's almost like the fire here is what our spirit is capable of. And again, in the card itself, it said that this orb represents things that this journeyman will be capable of someday. We're in this space of adepthood now after this initial initiatory phase, with mastery kind of sort of on the horizon, looming on the horizon, actually, because that staff is within arm's reach. But it's like on a soul level, this would be, again, it's kind of like this is an advanced ability. So to have access to this advanced ability within an incarnate body means that your soul is already this advanced. Like your soul is probably like beyond advanced enough to this in order for you to incarnate physically on a planet that's all about free will and choice, and to manifest something physically from your will alone. Right. And this, again, this is kind of sort of different than like, you first you change your relationship with your mind so your mind doesn't work against you. You realize thoughts become things, and then you line yourself up with like the thing. So let's say that like you want a Jeep and someone wants to get rid of a Jeep, and they're like, hey, like, do you need a new car? And you're like, yeah, but I can't really afford one. And they're like, here's a Jeep. You're like, what? I can't take that Jeep. I can't pay for it. And they're like, don't worry about it. I'm paying it forward to you. And now, if you have either a wavering faith or any kind of blockages in yourself, you may be the type of person that won't accept that Jeep, no matter how much the person with you is like, don't worry about it, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. Like, you don't have to pay for it. Consider it a blessing. And then you die and you get to heaven and you're like, God, I was trying to manifest the Jeep. or you talk to the angel at the gates and you're like, I was trying to manifest the Jeep. And the angel is like, well, we sent you the dude that gave you the Jeep for free, girl. Like, and you ain't take it. What you mean? Now I'm combining stories here, the dude who was drowning and who was praying and he was like, God's going to save me. And then the boat comes and the helicopter comes and the ship comes and the aliens come. And then, angels themselves come down from heaven and they're like, we are here to save you. We have heard your prayers. And the dude's like, it's okay. God's got me. And then they're like, we're like literally angels that literally descended from heaven just to come and rescue you. What do you mean? And then, they get to the pearly gate and they're like, you look familiar. And it's like, yeah, I'm the angel that, you were literally manifesting from heaven because all of the earthly things weren't apparently good enough for you, but your faith was strong enough to call us down there. So, we sort of let one pass and we made ourselves like physically available to you and you still turned us down. And it's like, oh, wow. So yeah, like it really is my fault. And they're like, yeah, like, bruh, like, come on. Right, I'm mixing stories. Anyway, I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it is what it is. Anyway, your soul is already capable of this. You as a light, you as a being, you're already capable of this, but this is about starting down here, doing it down here, doing it in the flesh, doing it incarnate. And doing it incarnate, especially on this planet, like if you were on a planet or on a realm or in a space where we didn't have free will, where we didn't have the ability to choose, then it's like, oh, you can get this gift no problem because you don't really have any choice. So if all you're going to do is good, then yeah, anybody can have it. There's not really a reason to gatekeep it if you can't do anything bad with it. But here you have the choice to do good with your gifts or to take advantage of people with your gifts. And we've seen some people who have been taking advantage of people with their gifts. But yeah, that's what this is about. The fire versus the earth. The earth is us learning in these incarnations to actually do it down here instead of on that spiritual level. But again, this is a spiritual gift. This gift lies beyond the realm of the mental. But I'm still not exactly sure why the 8 is down here, but the 7 is up here. Unless, going back to what I said a few days ago, when it comes to spiritual evolution, this would be in the space of spiritual evolution for us. And it's interesting because we're almost separating the soul of someone from that person incarnate. And like that separation is already there, so it's not that interesting. But there are things that, like, if you weren't an incarnate soul, you would be able to do, right? Demiurges, beings subservient to, under supreme being consciousness, but who are also, responsible for creating on material sort of levels. And again, like, I'm not, whatever the context is or was with that energy on this planet in the past, or depending on who you talk to, like in Gnosticism and some other practices, they're seen as antagonistic because they're beings with the power to create and manipulate material. And we live on the material, and people get consumed with the material, and they get so wrapped in the material that they neglect the spiritual. If that's your relationship with them, okay, that's your relationship with them. This is talking about the ability in itself and the gift in itself, not what some entities or beings would have done with that gift on this planet, on this realm, and how they influence things here. We're separating them, right? And so it's almost like to learn how to do it where it's denser, where it's more difficult to do it, causes us to evolve even more, or causes some change in development, especially if this is the first time your soul would have an incarnate body utilizing that gift. And again, like this is pure Hierophant territory, girl. This is not Legacy Channel. I would not go into it this deep on my Legacy Channel. And that may be the difference. Like over here, I can go full deep. Over there, it's like Gerber's. You get Gerber's baby food. Over here, you get whole carrots, still cut into, hopefully non-choke hazard size pieces, because it goes beyond even this trust. Um, I don't know, and like, if this is what's coming to me mentally, anything that we can conceive of, we can achieve. And if we're in the space of testing for this, then this may become, in the not too distant future, something that people actually do. Now, when we're talking about magic and magicians, like making things appear out of thin air, that's literally this energy right here. That we're just taking a much more spiritual approach to it. Now, again, you can separate the spiritual purpose, the spiritual journey, the spiritual mission from the actual gift itself. This is a gift of basically like to be a real life magician. But spiritually, like, what are you doing with this? Honestly, with the Seven of Orbs Gardener being up here and the Eight of Orbs Journeyman being down there, this may be a spiritual test as well as a physical test. Because when you incarnate, especially, I keep saying it. Oh, what's the laughing emojis for? I missed it. Was that for the Gerber baby food comment or something? um, Whenever you incarnate in a place where free will and free choice is a thing, even if your soul has this ability, your soul has to grow to the point where even under a veil of forgetfulness, you won't misuse it, right? It has to be so strong within your soul that even when you've completely forgotten who you are, even in a system where those who find themselves in power are corrupted by that power, even in a system where the saying absolute powers corrupts absolutely, you would still remain incorruptible. So, and again, it's like I said a few days ago, there are some people who will be getting gifts and your gift will be evolving. A lot of people see spiritual gifts as things that, we sort of we get access, we get granted to them, and they don't really change. Like sometimes it's like, oh, my gift of clairaudience is evolving. I'm becoming more clairaudient. Like this is evolution beyond just that. This is evolution to the point where, like, let's say, um, your clairvoyance is evolving to the point where you can literally see like realms and dimensions on top of dimensions and not just like, oh, I can see a ghost or a spirit from this dimension. Like your eyes are literally open to the whole thing to the point where you're basically walking in that dimension. Right. Or when it comes to clairaudience, let's say that I don't know how to, because then even like, I don't know how to describe the evolution, There are some things like even if you are spiritually in the vicinity of it, if you don't have the physical incarnation, the physically incarnate recollection of it, is kind of sort of hard to describe how that gift would play out in reality, right? But that's kind of sort of the energy, right? It's like, yeah, okay, all right, gotcha. It's like, some people are, man, I wish I was clairaudient so I can see ghosts and spirits and orbs and this and that. It's like that's one version of clairaudient or clairvoyance, but to literally see the world around you switch and shift into that different dimension, excuse me, is a step above, right? And then there's like claircognizance to the point where it's like, oh, I know what sandwich you ate yesterday. I know what like happened to you in your past. I know what's going to happen to you in the future. But then there's claircognizance to the point where you're understanding the spiritual processes that go into literally creating, building, like understanding those fundamental laws of creation to the point where you would be able to create them yourself. Right. And again, it's like we're going to be coming through to spiritual evolution. I mean, I mean, I guess you in here, girl. So we both in here, right? Because again, it's like for me, it's like there's a difference between like a spiritual gift. I'm glad you said that, Miyoshi or Mimi. I'm glad you said that, Mimi. Because like there's a difference between a gift upgrading and a gift evolving, right? People's gifts upgrade all the time. We're talking about an actual evolution of a gift and not just an upgrade. Like, because I feel like using the word upgrade versus evolve kind of sort of gets you to understand like what I'm talking about in ways that I can't necessarily explain it. Because again, um, this is probably going to be new for me too. So I'm excited. I feel like I may have had a lifetime or two where I made it to this point and then I ended up misusing it. So we're not going to do that this time. I'm already good, y'all. I'm already good. Right? It's really interesting, girl. I love this. But again, I feel like we're going to be evolving to the point that people aren't talking about. I wonder if there's a certain element of secrecy that comes with this. Oof, you get it. Okay, thank you. Because it's like if you own this, I feel like, and it's not necessarily secrecy as in like hush hush, but it's secrecy to the point where you're not gonna. Because again, this is one of those spaces where the shadow cannot exist as a shadow, and so some of the secrecy is implied. Like if you're doing it to convince somebody, ego, shadow, you're out. If you're doing it to show off, ego, shadow, you're out. If you're doing it for some kind of status or for some kind of money or whatever, ego, shadow, you're out. Like this is beyond all of that. So if I just go off the grid or if I just disappear, girl, all right, if y'all see me like in a mansion, know that I built that mansion and designed it from the spirit. Ooh, girl, girl. Wow. Okay. The whole gosh darn Ace of Pentacles just came out next to this Ace of Wands, the sacred fire and the bread of life. Um, this is all fire and earth, by the way. And the only air in this table, on the table, is this Page of Swords here, and then the Eight of Swords at the bottom of the deck because the Page of Swords was the bottom. This is wow. Okay, this is intense. That's another reason why there are so many people and so many different levels of consciousness on this planet right now. Because, like, not only is are we as humans and we as humanity like in the position to really become better to each other and to really progress and proceed as our hearts open and as we really tackle these social justice issues and stuff like that and as we start to treat each other like not only is humanity evolving but there's also this unique opportunity for very extraordinary spirits to come and incarnate down here and to also evolve. Like there literally may be some like spirits or like levels of consciousness down here that have incarnated that are doing this thing with us to, like I said, go from manifesting like jeeps to actual worlds. And that is like, I don't know. This is it's a little too woo woo for me too. Right, Miyoshi girl, I'm right there with you. I'm like, I promise that ain't me no more. And like the interesting thing is I feel like I proved it to myself. Cause like I know when I first started this thing, and it wasn't even all of this. I was talking to one of my good buddies and it just came up. Um, cause I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't like if I actually had some like power and some ability, like I don't know. what I would do with it. I feel like maybe in a past life I wasn't the best and I lost it. Excuse me, but this time I'm just like, but again, that's another thing that your experience down here can teach you when it comes to free will and when it comes to choice. Like when you learn or when you enter the space of making the right choices and of choosing the light just because like that becomes who you are, or like for the sake of choosing the light, even if choosing the night and choosing the dark is more profitable and if it can get you further faster, like when you come to that space, that shows actual maturity. And for you to reach that space incarnate on the physical with the lower mind means that on a soul level, like it's even more so the case. And oh, girl, I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not even gonna go there this time because I feel like every time I go there, something happens and I end up private in the video. And I don't want to private this one, so I'm not even gonna go all the way there. I just don't feel right. Something about me, something about it don't feel right whenever I go too far. And then it's like I'll end up private in this video and then I'll come back with another live. It's like, girl, I ain't got time for all that today. I mean, I do have time for that today because I'm not doing anything else, honestly. But we ain't got time to do all that today. Um, if it is part of your path, part of your journey, part of who you are, it will be shown to you. That's all I'll say. It'll be shown to you in one way or another. Um, but wow, that's why I love this deck. She knew what she was doing when she made this. And I caught a little bit of her interview, and somebody interviewed her, and he was like, you know, what do you say to the people who would pick up your deck and who would spend, some people, hundreds of dollars? Because again, like she made these and she hasn't reprinted them and she's not reprinting them. So some people will spend like money on these after they've gone out of whatever. And he was like, what would you say to those people who did that and then who get your deck and they don't know how to use it, or like they don't connect with it or whatever? And she was like, girl, well, this deck is intended to be a lot. Like it is heavy. Like to use this deck and all of what it's capable for is extremely heavy. And not everyone is at the level where they can use it like that. And some people, like their guides, will actually like interfere with readings and not allow them to like tap into these for all of what they are, even though a lot of it, again, like I literally just read it from the passage, but I felt it too. Yeah. And I've kind of sort of like, I've been thinking about what that means lately. It's just been on my mind, if I'm being real honest, Mimi. And in my mind, it's like, what does it mean to save someone? Right. Because the first time I was getting it, I was sort of feeling it as like, you know, possibly violating the natural cycles of life and death, potentially. But then what if it's something like, with great power comes great responsibility? And while there are some people who are, it kind of sort of falls into that ego space a little bit, kind of sort of, but not really. It's like, you know, there are some people who are really close to us. And when we come into some level of power or ability, we want them to come into it also. And let's say that for you, saving someone was like elevating them out of the space of being more controlled by the matrix and starting to learn how to control the matrix. But if they weren't yet responsible, if they weren't responsible enough for that, or if it wasn't yet their time to do that and you violated that and sort of brought them into it anyway, then all of the responsibility of that, of committing that, of doing that in the first place when they're not ready, and then anything that they would do with that information when you are literally the only reason why they had access to that information, all of how they misuse it falls on you. So saving somebody could be any number of things. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like it could be any number of things. And sometimes honestly, when it comes to lessons like that, when it comes to things like that, I may not even get a straight up answer. And remember yesterday at the end of the video when I was talking about how like if you lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. And so you get these horses that we lead to water and then they die of dehydration, like literally in the water. And they come back in the next incarnation with the fear of water. And they think that the fear is associated with them drowning in water. And so your whole lifetime you go, oh, you drowned in water in a past life. Oh, you had a very horrific ending with water, because you would associate a horrific ending in water to drowning. And so you go through your whole life hearing, oh, you drowned in the past life, or feeling like you drowned in the past life. But the actual lesson for you to learn is when you get led to the water, when you're thirsty, drink the water. And so there comes in this mismanagement, but that mismanagement, that misattribution of the trauma of the trigger is necessary, because if your greatest test in this lifetime is to drink the water when you get led to it, like if that is literally your greatest test, there are certain things we're not permitted to know. And so the answer will get twisted and distorted, where you may get something partially or something related to what actually went down, but this is a choice that you're going to have to learn to make or not make. And so, like, not even I, and I kind of sort of hate saying not even I, because when I say not even I, it makes me feel like I put myself so much further, like, above. And in reality, I don't. But at the same time, I don't sell myself short either. And that's been a lesson for me, girl, as you know. Um, but not even I would be able to see exactly what that is, because then that would violate the test that you set for yourself when you came down here. It would violate, like, literally not the whole reason why you're down here, but one of the big reasons why you're down here. If I told you exactly what your mistake was so you don't make it again. So I would say have a very, very, very loose interpretation of it as you come into all of the knowledge that you're coming into. Because at the end of the day, it's like you used your gift or your knowledge at a time on someone where either the time wasn't appropriate, the act wasn't appropriate, or the sharing of that knowledge to that person wasn't appropriate. Because again, if they weren't right in the heart and they took the knowledge that you gained and did something bad with it, they get their own karma, but then you also inherit karma because you gave a toddler an AK-47. You know what I mean? Yeah. Girl, like kind of sort of low key on the lowest of keys, kind of sort of Patrick been on his next level, but I only really get there when I start to speak. Because see, the thing about me is that if I only think about certain things, there's something about me hearing my own voice and something about me speaking where if I hear myself say it, I'll be able to correct myself. But if I only think it, I'll never catch the mistake. So speaking is one of the ways that I really get there. And I know, like, I've always known that I'm capable of it. You know, I just see things in a different way. But yeah, thanks though. And girl, it took me a minute to get to the space, and it took some very, very heavy players in my own life to get me to reach the space where I'm comfortable even sharing this information. And even if I do private this video afterwards, the fact that I'm sharing it in the first place means that it's like that's the only way for me to really access the points. For me, like I'm not the type of person that can really expand or grow too much if it's only in the realm of thought. And it's like I can't really refine it unless I speak it. Speaking is the way in which I go through refinement. I can go through expansion mentally all day, but some things you need to refine before you, because like, you know, before you won't fully really understand the next thing until you more understand the thing that you're currently on. And it's like you can have, in my perfect example, going through university from like freshman year and sophomore year, they teach you everything you need to know when it comes to junior year, especially in my major, when it came to junior year, that's when you begin to really build. And one of the things, it's like, you would do a math problem or a science. A lot of it is like, I was in biological engineering, so a lot of it isn't just straight up math. But let's say like you have a problem and you make all of these assumptions, right? Assume that gravity is normal. Assume that this doesn't happen. Assume that that doesn't happen. Assume that it's pretty nice and it's pretty standard. But then here comes junior year where you get a problem and they don't give you the assumptions anymore. They don't give you the assumptions and they don't give you the equations. And so, or they'll give you one equation, but you use assumptions to simplify equations and to simplify problems. And so you got to be like, okay, well, if I make this assumption, then I can cancel out these terms and the equation simplifies here. And it's like part of getting the answer right is making the right assumptions and reducing the equation. But if you overly simplify it, like if the assumption doesn't apply, then you get it wrong. So it's like, thank you for like stating your assumptions, but that assumption doesn't apply in this case. I can't remember why I went on this tangent. I can't remember why I went on this little tangent. Can you remind me? What was I talking about? I got to talk about stuff to really refine it, to really understand it. To really understand it, I got to speak about it. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. Thank you, Mimi. Girl, it's been a journey. It's been a journey, but like when I say things like I handle challenges as they come, I don't run, I take my 2 days. Like for those of y'all who've watched me, like y'all would probably be able to see that I'm not just saying stuff like that. And like, it's not just air. Like this isn't a persona that I play on the internet, on camera, and then I go about my day-to-day life and I don't actually live this. Like, no, that's not who I am. I very much so live this. And because I live this is why I speak the way I speak. And it's why I kind of sort of get a little harsh sometimes and a little less understanding. And it's not even harsh, and it's not that I don't understand it, and it's not that I don't care, but it's like, sometimes you got to tell the children no. Because if you keep doing it, you're going to hurt yourself to the point where we got to go to the hospital. And now you're going to be traumatized because of this one experience. And you're going to be looking at me like, wow, like, Dad, I almost called myself Mom. Wow, Dad, you really let me do that. I was like, well, you got to learn somehow. Sometimes you got to stick the fork in the electrical outlet to know that that's a bad idea. Now, I'm not always that type of person. Maybe that's another thing I had to learn. I can't always be that type of person. Because in the past, I would just be like, oh, well, they'll learn either way. It ain't my job to teach nobody. Who am I? I'm just an innocent bystander. But yes, that's what all of this is. And that's what that is. So, yeah. Yeah, there are some very, very, very old souls, some ancient souls, and some very interesting souls who have incarnated right now. And they're going to be learning lessons and clearing up karma just like everybody else. And in some ways, the journey doesn't really look too much that different because we all go through a veil of forgetfulness when we come down here. Right? And like, that's another, like, you'll never necessarily really hear me say that I'm channeling. And the reason why I don't too much necessarily say that I'm channeling is because like some of the stuff I talk about, to me, channeling implies that I'm giving you information that I don't have direct access to in my own spiritual and my own soul line. Like I've met one of my higher selves. Like I said, I've talked about it before. My highest self is what came to me in meditation. And I had guides there. Like they were like, I'm not going to take this down, so I'm not going to go too far. But when I did that meditation, like my highest self had like guardians stationed there. Like there were guides already there. And then I was like, oh, like, what's that in the back? They were like, oh, let's not talk about that right now. Like, how are you? Like, oh my gosh, it's so good to finally meet you. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I actually have guides. Cool. But then of course, y'all know I went for the highest self. And my highest self took me on a journey. But then it also left. So, yeah, we do. And again, that's another reason, like, that's one reason why I don't necessarily too much say I'm channeling. Some of it I have like access to, and it's just kind of sort of within my own, like, just like I don't have to channel what 2 + 2 is, and I ain't got to channel what 2 × 2 is, and I ain't got to channel what 2 squared is, and the answer to all of that is 4. Um, that's and again, like, I'm not up here telling you what your soulmate is gonna look like and what their name is gonna be and what kind of car they're gonna drive and like stuff like that. Like, if I was doing all that, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm channeling that. No, when it comes to talking about stuff like this, it's like, for me, the cards help me sort of access this knowledge and awareness that I already have in the data bank within me. Things that I just kind of sort of naturally feel as true and that I don't necessarily too much speak on. So yeah. But I will say that there are some times when it feels like I get something that I don't know. And the first time that happened is, I don't remember what it was, but when I was talking about empathy evolving, that was one of those times when I was like, oh, what is this? Like, if I say something like, oh, what is this? Or, oh, where did that come from? Then, like, that's something where it's like, okay, that feels like new information to me. And so I do it sometimes. But something like, if I'm just doing stuff like this, like, it comes and it goes, you know? I don't know. It's interesting, girl. I don't really know how to tell. But it's like, there are some things I can talk about and not have to channel the information. Because it just like feel like it makes sense, especially if you already get a confirmation or like a partial confirmation from one person. And like I said, my brain is always going. It only refines when I speak on it, but it is constantly expanding. And so when I find confirmation, then it's like, oh yeah, this person said this, but now I'm about to add a whole bunch of stuff that I was already getting. So like, when I like sent you that video about, there was that one video about twin souls I sent you, and then the video about mirror souls. Then I can interject all of this information that I was already picking up on top of what they were saying. So like, I'm gonna give you what they were saying, but now I'm about to like dump a whole lot more on top of you. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad I've seen this card so often, and I've never looked up what the definition of demiurge is, and so I'm glad I did it today. And this energy is very much so this. It's like, girl, get ready, get ready. So when I tell y'all I'm out here manifesting a brighter for tomorrow for the whole collective, when I say stuff like, you know, even if I don't have that much power, now, I'm not going to say everything within me, but a lot of what I have within me, when I say I'm trying to hold space for an entire conscious planet and its conscious inhabitants, like I'm kind of sort of doing it. But at the same time, I have the knowledge and awareness. I have enough knowing to know that it's not going to be immediate and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty at all. Some of the darkest shadows are going to be coming up because the darkest shadows are the heaviest things that we're holding, aka what's most preventing us from reaching higher densities because it's too dense. It's like, I know stuff like that, and I know you can't violate anybody's free will. And I know that remembering stuff is also important, because if you don't remember it, you can repeat it, and ain't nobody got time. Like, we can't repeat 3D atrocities in the 5D. Like, when things are so much easier to manifest and you can manifest bigger and you have more, like, you're more connected, like, you kind of sort of wouldn't do that. But also, there's good and bad everywhere, and duality and polarity runs very, very, very high up the spectrum. And so, like, duality still exists in the 5D, I'm pretty sure. So you can be 5D and be like really nasty, and we ain't got time for a nasty 5D Earth. Like, we ain't doing that. And it's so interesting because I did that Akashic Records reading, and when I look at what my gift, like when I saw what my gift was from that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is heavy. But it's like, almost, it's like one of those gifts that are so heavy that like you never use it, right? Like, if you have they're I remember somebody said, like, when it comes to the Queen of Swords, the Queen of Swords has that sword of truth. It's like the sword of the Queen of Swords and the sword of justice are the same sword. And the dude was like, this is one of those swords that is so powerful. It requires a lot to get something like this, but by the time you get it, you'd realize that you never use it. Right? It's kind of sort of the same thing. It's like it's one of those things that, like, and again, okay, there we go. That's one of the things. So in the space on this planet, one of the predominant laws is free will and free choice, right? So when you get to when your gifts evolve, that's one of the fundamental laws that you cannot violate, right? To violate someone else's free will or someone else's free choice is a huge no-no. Huge. And some would say that some people have been doing that for quite a while. And when things shift, they will get their comeuppance and they will wish that they had just not. Um, but that's one of the things that you can't violate, right? And so, like, we could be some of the most powerful, like, we could hold some of the most powerful souls out there, but you wouldn't be able to force humanity to stop fighting each other because free will and free choice, it would violate the heart, and you can't violate the heart. It's one of the reasons why you can't make someone else's choices for them, because a lot of choices, especially when it comes to bigotry and prejudice and hatred, some of it comes mentally from ignorance, some of it comes from a distorted heart, and you can't violate the heart, right? That speaks to some of those rules that we have that you can't violate down here. And so, there are some things that as a soul, yeah, maybe you can do it, but as someone incarnated on Earth, or when it comes to Earth, or the energy of Earth, or the space, the realm that is Earth, there are certain things that are like a no fly, right? You can't do that in this game. Like, you'd have to switch the cartridge and play a different game, right? You can't be Spider-Man in every single game you play. You can't be Superman in every single game you play. And not every game is Minecraft, right? You can't build everything in every game either. You have to abide by the rules of the game. And that's one of the things about the Matrix. It's like, I don't know if you can necessarily, like, I feel like the movie The Matrix gave people the idea that they can kind of sort of do a little more in it than maybe you can in reality. Because it's like when you're in the program, you have to abide by the laws of the program in some ways. In some ways you don't, but in some ways you do, right? Like, if you have a Super Nintendo, you're not gonna get like 1080p graphics. It's always gonna look boxy, girl. It's always gonna look boxy. Oh no, girl, no, never. I don't think we're ever really responsible for someone else's free will, right? And it's like, see, that's the difference though. And that's kind of sort of what I was feeling. It's like, now let's say if I get access to this ability where I could literally manifest anything I want without the need of cooperation from someone else. Like, if we step from co-creators into more self-creators, like, that's kind of sort of what this demiurge gift is. This is creator. Like, this is the gift of being a creator instead of a co-creator, right? We're not co-creating no more. I don't need you. I don't need the material of this planet. I can arrange, because dark matter is a thing that exists so much in this universe that we don't know how to use. We know that matter is directly linked and tied to the spirit. We know that. So why would dark matter be any different? Dark matter is so much more prevalent and holds so much more power in it. Like, if I start teaching you how to use dark matter, then that falls on me, because without me, you wouldn't have had that knowledge, that knowing, that awareness, that understanding. Right? If you're like, should I wear the blue shirt or the orange shirt? And I'm like, well, if you wear the orange shirt, You're gonna attract the attention of somebody you don't like, and if you wear the blue shirt, you'll be fine. Like that's different because that's a choice that like that person would have already had the ability to make. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference between like, giving somebody the money to buy a weapon and then like giving a child a weapon, right? Like a responsible adult with a license, that's one thing. A child without a license, that is a child, that's something else. You know what I mean? It's kind of sort of that. Yeah. Girl, no. Well, I'd say in general, I feel like there's so many caveats and buts and buts and buts. I'd say in general, no. That was so interesting. This was extremely interesting. Again, this Eight of Swords is down here. So this is something that is well kept. And in this deck, behind the Eight of Swords is the Angel. Like the Angel is what's tied up back there. So, some of these, it's like, y'all find out. I don't know. I don't know. Part of me feels like I can just talk about this and not be like, oh, I hope this isn't too whatever. Because honestly, like these are spaces that you would never be able to attain or achieve or reach if you're not like if this isn't your path, it's not gonna happen for you. Oh gosh. I feel like I'm about to eat my own foot. Look, here's that justice card with the vagabond. Y'all can't even see it when I hold it like this. There you go. Can y'all see that? Justice in the Five of Pentacles. I would say that if you ain't gonna get here, like you'll never get here. But since duality runs so high, I wouldn't put it past some kind of entity to be like, oh, you looking for like creator energy? You looking to be like a demiurge? Well, girl, I got like you ain't gotta do all that hard work. What if I told you you can get that power exactly as you are right now? No work needed. And then here you go making deals with stuff and doing stuff that girl, now you got that'll be your karma to work out. That's your karma. Because I like the way I talk about it, it's the luminous void, right? A place where the shadow cannot exist as the shadow. There are also some places, like I said, where the light can't exist as a light. So if you are giving your light up for some kind of shadow power, girl, that's on you. That's on y'all. And it'd be people who really be trying to do stuff like that. High key, for real. I'm not responsible for none of y'all. I ain't nobody mama. Or daddy at this point. It's also interesting though. I mean, I guess I should clarify. I feel like there are some things, again, like when I was talking about energy work in that video that isn't even up anymore. Oh, there's the Keeper. The Keeper and the Death card. I'm pulling both of those because I want to know what that is. I want to remember that. Whatever this card is that flipped over, the Keeper and Death, the Keeper of Death. Oof. The Keeper and Death were flanking that. I want to make sure I remember. Flip it now and do an I Ching? Sure, let's flip it now and do an I Ching. Bottom of the deck here is the Five of Swords actor. And then the Five of Wands is the card under that. 2 5s, 55. That's a lot of change. What was I about to say? Because you said something about the Akashic Records reading. I feel like some of that. I'm gonna try not to eat my own foot as I say this, because I may not be a vegetarian, but people is not on the menu of foods I'd like to eat, or even like have to be in a situation to eat or be forced to eat without me knowing, girl. Like, I'm good. And so I'm definitely not trying to eat my own foot. But so I'd say, like, again, when I was talking about energy work yesterday in that video that I privated, I gotta remember that, you know, I do have some spiritual vegans and vegetarians who watch me, so I can't always go ham. I can't always go ham because some people don't eat ham. Ooh, it's like face down, face up, face down, face up, and then this card on the bottom. Just like I was saying about energy work and stuff like that, we we talk about the energy system, specifically the chakra system and the energetic body, in a way that implies that the only way to balance your chakras or your energetic body is to have an energy healer, an energy worker, an energy practitioner come and work on your chakras. That is not the case. Your energetic body is linked to your mental body and linked to your physical body. You can naturally clear your chakras just by doing all of that hard work that you need to do. It's like if you have underlying traumas, like some people are like, oh, I can go to therapy or I can, you know, go to some Reiki master and have them balance my root chakra or my 10th chakra for those of y'all who are in the upper level chakras. But in reality, like if you have a blockage, that blockage is going to be that blockage, right? Your actual decisions and your actual behaviors matter. Like you can get ties cut all day and people can actually do it the right way. You can have an energetic tie removed. But if you keep reestablishing that tie, like what does that do for you? Really, at the end of the day, what does that really do for you? If you don't change your behaviors enough to quit establishing that tie, if you don't change your behaviors enough to quit indulging in that energy, if you don't change your behaviors enough to stop giving that your energy, because as long as you give something your time, your energy, your attention, you're going to be reestablishing or strengthening that tie. And like when it comes to healing the heart, it's like, you know, I'm working on my heart chakra so I can feel, or you can just work through all the traumas that keep you from opening up to people. I'm working on my throat chakra. I'm listening to the throat chakra music. I'm doing throat chakra clearing meditations, or you could just speak your truth. You could speak up and that would clear your throat chakra too. You don't need practitioners. You don't need fancy sounds. You don't need music. You don't need bowls. You don't need anything outside of you to balance you. Everything you need, you already have inside of you. You just have to use it and you have to face the things. You have to do the work. Energy healing, binaural beats, those frequencies and tones, none of that is a substitution for actually doing the work. All of that could put you in the position to make the work easier. Sure. Ooh, sure. But none of that is a substitution for actually doing the work. And so just like with the Akashic Records reading, it's like there are some things where knowing doesn't make it any easier. And if you do the work regardless, all of that stuff will naturally come back to you. There's a lot of stuff that I did and I got into just by doing meditation. And then as I went through the journey and as I grew more, there were things that got validated. There were pictures of the puzzle that came into being. Like even when I pull cards, like it can tell me things, but a lot of times like cards are just a validation. Because if it doesn't resonate, it doesn't resonate regardless. Right? Like if it doesn't resonate for you, it's like there are some things that we hope resonate for us, some things that we want to resonate for us, some things that we need to resonate in order to fit the narrative or the story that we already have going. And so it's like sometimes we force things to fit that don't actually fit. We just want them to or need them to for whatever reason. But if it actually fits, it's like that information will come to you regardless. When the student is ready, the master will appear. And so it's like as you continue to do the work and as you progress and as you go within and as you start to get to know yourself and talk to yourself. And again, it's like, I don't know, maybe I would say this is my own particular opinion. This is my own particular experience. I think I kind of sort of came down here with a lot less karma than other people. I also had the mentality where I don't keep myself in situations that aren't good for me. I've never really been that type of person to hang on to people, to hang on to friends, to hang on to family, to hang on to anybody or anything that's not good for me. Girl, if you're toxic, you can get cut out no matter who you are. I'm not proud of it, but there was a period of several months I didn't even talk to my own mother. And I never thought I would, like, I'm such a mama's boy. I never thought I would ever reach the point in my life where I didn't talk to my own mother. But there was a good chunk of time I ain't talked to her. Now, I was just stressed and she was stressing me. And I was like, you know what? I don't need this extra stress. You can leave. That's what I said. I was like, I don't need this right now. I'm under so much stress and so much pressure. What I don't need right now is any more from you. Feel free to exit. And then after I got, calmed down and worked through things on my own, then it's like, okay, I can reintroduce myself to the situation. But it's like, that's one of the dangers of information is being overly informed. And I only say that because it's like there are some things that have come, connotation is everything. Just like talking about the demiurge and how it's like, if you look it up, a demiurge is just kind of sort of an entity with an entity or a spirit with the ability to create worlds. And so since you create worlds, that implies a certain control over the material plane. Now, because of what spirituality is and was, and because of the relationship between the material and the spiritual plane, to some people, demiurge has come to mean something very, very bad and something very, very antagonistic, when in reality, it doesn't have to be that bad. And so it's like there are some things where it's like we can give ourselves more karma, we can give ourselves more work, we can make things harder on ourselves by looking to make it worse. And it's like anything that you have to deal with or clear up, you're going to deal with and clear up. But you can also make things, it's like you can make monsters scarier than they need to be. You can make shadows bigger than they actually are by moving them closer to the light. And the light, in this case, being your awareness. So if you're hyper aware of something, it's going to be a bigger deal than it actually is. And that's one of the reasons why I myself, it's like when it comes to astrology and stuff like that, I don't necessarily dig into it too much more when it comes to like what this placement traditionally means. Like my moon is really, really close to the fixed star Algol. And I looked up what an Algol moon is, and they like, girl, people with Algol in their chart can be like murderers and they can be stuff like this. I'm like, oof, that's a whole bunch of karma I am not trying to pick up. No, thank you. I'll do my work. I'll make sure my heart is clear, my heart is pure, my heart is good. I'll tap back into my energy of innocence. I'll do all my inner work. We ain't even got to focus on all of that stuff. Like that's the narrative, that's a story that I will not adapt myself. And that's the power of narrative. A lot of times we end up picking up stories that make things harder on us. And if you believe in the story, it's going to be true for you. Now, if you don't believe in the story, doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to be true, because the truth is the truth. Absolute truths are absolute. Relative truths you can pick up and you can drop off. But if something is an absolute truth for you, it's going to be an absolute truth for you, regardless of if you know it or not. Yeah. But that's why, like, when you start talking about like karmic numbers and stuff like that, I'm like, girl, Mimi, if that's your journey, if that's enlightening for you, like, who am I to say otherwise? I'm not going to argue with whatever you find for you in your journey. And maybe it is actually insightful, but I'm not the type of person to make things harder than they need to be. So as things come up in my life, I'll address it. You ain't got to tell me that like I'm a life path 7. And if you say, well, life path 7's like they got trust issues because it's a very spiritual life path, and a lot of people with life path 7 was probably a witch or had some kind of spiritual ability in the past life where they were attacked as a witch or whatever. And so now you got all that karma that you carry around with you, and it haunts you. It was like, girl, it's fine. If I got trust issues, I'll work through my trust issues. If I got to learn how to speak, I'll work. I'll learn that lesson. I ain't gotta make it harder. Yeah, I don't know. But then at the same time, it's like I guess the only thing I don't want to say advice, but the only thing I would say to you is like if it was true when you saw it and you grew beyond it, I would just say drop it. I would say like you don't have to keep like being like, oh, like this is my number and it's karmic. This is my number. Like if you've already worked through it and if you're already beyond all that, then I would just drop it. I wouldn't keep reaffirming that it's karmic. But I don't know. I'm just that type of person where I really like. It's like if I don't want something, I'm not gonna too much like. You know how sometimes it's a very human thing that if there's an accident that happens, like our eye, like it just naturally catches our eye, regardless of if we want to see it or not. We're just naturally drawn to it. I'm like, I ain't trying to see. I ain't trying to see no blood. I ain't trying to see no dismemberment. I don't care if it is an accident, girl. I will look the other way. I will fight that natural urge to just be like, what's going on? If it's something I don't want to see, and again, it's kind of sort of different. Like, it's different than being like willingly ignorant because it kind of sort of sounds like it. I don't know, girl. Okay. Just like lots of lessons, lots of growth, lots of healing. Gotcha. A very progressive path, a path that involves immense growth. Gotcha. All right. Excuse me. But yeah, like not to say that energy work and Akashic records reading and stuff like that aren't helpful. Um, but I don't know. Everything we need is within us, and the most important, the most pressing things we'll face. Right. But I don't know. Maybe also it also depends on like first what's important for you to know and remember, and then how important that is to get you to be where you're going. Because for some reason, like before I even ordered these cards, one of the things that came to me was like divination is going to be the only thing you do. You don't do magic. You don't do this. You don't do that. All of that other stuff. And it's not that anything is necessarily inherently wrong or inherently bad. It's not that it's evil necessarily. It's just not you. That's not your path. That's not in your toolkit. I was like, okay. And I was cool with that. And so I don't necessarily like I don't do any candle magic. I don't even necessarily manifest with the moon cycles. Like all that other stuff, rituals, stuff like that, I don't do it. Like divination is it for me. Tarot cards, oracle cards. If I get into like Chinese oracle bone, runes, like anything like that, that's fine. Anything outside of that, not for me. But it could be for y'all, you know? And then you may find something through whatever is for you. I found something through what was for me. And I used it as a tool of self development, first and foremost. And it continues to be that for me. And also, since my intention when I first started was self development, that kind of sort of runs through the tone of everything I do, right? Now, this ain't no tea, it ain't no shade, it just is what it is because there are lots of people who do this. Like, if when you get into it, your thing is love, like, I want to know who my soulmate is, and like, I'm going to get into these cards to find that out, then you may have like a love heavy focus. You may have a love heavy path. And even when you're not necessarily trying to read for love, it just may come up. Like, I don't necessarily always try to read for self development, but it's what comes up. Especially if someone asks me a question, like, somebody asked me a love question, I would like to be able to just give a straight up love answer, but that's not why I set out on this. And it's not that it can't change, but sometimes the energy that you approach it with speaks to how you use your gift. But let's see. Yeah. And like, I know sometimes I can speak a little strongly, but I honestly, at my core, I don't judge anybody for doing anything. But at the same time, like, if you have your path and if I have my path and our paths don't align, then they just don't align. And I'm not going to hold on to people that I don't align with. I don't condemn. I don't judge. We all human. We all do things. I understand. I know. But I don't have to like everybody. And not everybody is going to like me. I don't have to give everybody my time and energy and effort. And not everybody is going to give their time and energy and effort to me. And no judgment. We all do what we do. And like, I follow someone who is very open about like some of the stuff that she does, right? But I also know or believe that she's a person of integrity, and a person of integrity being that like she's not going to get on camera and say that she does one thing but then go off camera and do everything that she says like she's not doing. You know what I mean? Like, she's real. And there are some people, sometimes you got to use what you know and you got to go for it, right? I don't have anything against people who do stuff like that. It just ain't for me. And I also know or believe that some people are a little weak hearted, weak minded, weak willed. And so they'll seek out extraordinary means to do very mundane things. And when you do that, sometimes the price that you incur is even more than if you sought them out in the proper way. But then again, you could be messing with some people where a dollar is a dollar and energy is energy, and whatever karma you reap is on you. However you use their services is on you. They ain't liable. Yeah. So like, again, like I have like there are some people I would go to for some things and some people I would go to for other things. And even I will clarify though that one particular person comes to mind right now who it's not the only thing that they do at all. But one of the things that comes up a lot for that person is something very specific that I don't necessarily at the time I didn't necessarily I wasn't super invested in. But whenever I would get something from that person, like if ever I reached out for their services, it was something personalized to me, right? And so it's not to say that anybody necessarily is pigeonholed to one thing or another, but sometimes, you're attracted to energy that gives you what you're looking for. And if you're the type of person where you're like, oh, I'm not looking for love, but you really are. And if love comes out, then you may be like, oh, I wasn't even looking for this. But in reality, you probably were, whether you were conscious of it or not. If that's the predominant sort of like concern in your energetic field, it's going to be what comes out. Um, or if it's like, you know, if you're looking for a good message, you're like, I just want some good news. I just want some good news. And so you go to the person who you perceive as always gives good news, but your reading comes out negative. Like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? You had to address yourself as, I was now to do, with yourself. Yeah. And that's like, honestly, that's another reason why I never got into anything. And it wasn't super prevalent. And it's interesting that it came up, and it's probably extremely interesting now that I've come across some of the people on the tubes that I've come across doing who knows what behind closed doors or with open doors. But one of the things that like you're gonna do, like the only thing you're doing is divination, and don't worry about protection because we got you. As long as you stick to what is for you, you'll be protected. You'll be fine. and I don't necessarily know what all is involved with my protection, but all I have is a feeling is that I'd rather not try to cross me or try to bring anything negative towards me because I don't take anything negative towards anybody. And I feel like I'm an individual who is very protected. And if you get hit with the fangs, girl, I ain't do nothing to work against you because I don't do stuff like that. But I also am very protected. So if you're wondering, oh my gosh, it's the Ace of Pentacles again. The Ace of Pentacles is between the Keeper and Death. And then we got this New World Order over here. The Ace of Pentacles and the World. Both of these cards can symbolize the world. Interesting. But then we got this Five of Swords up here. Hmm. These cards is on one today. I'm a fan. I like it. We might have to talk later, Mimi. Because there's something that I want to say, but I don't know if I necessarily want to say it on air, girl. And I kind of sort of been holding my tongue a little bit. I'll just send it to you on Discord real quick before I forget. Um, and we ain't necessarily got to talk about it here, but um, what I will say, because I feel like some of this may be relevant to anybody watching, um, there are times when we can be told something where we can get a message ourselves. And depending on how much we trust ourselves, oh my gosh, going back to Moses and the Israelites in the promised land, depending on how much we trust ourselves and what the outside looks like, we may find it easier to buy into what other people say, what other people see, or the quote unquote reality at hand. But if we get a vision and a message for ourselves, then it's for us to do it our way. And so if you already know that you're protected, but for some reason you have a feeling to seek out extra protection, it's like, um, again, like you have that moment where you make a conscious decision, right? Like, do I actually need this? And you do what you feel is right, and you did, right? You made that conscious decision. You did what you felt was right. And it's almost like, I wouldn't say, it's interesting, but it almost feels like I'm looking at this Sprite can, but all I see is RITE, like right, like right, you right. Continue. um, it's like it reveals a little bit of a vulnerability, I guess is what I could say. To receive something yourself and to go against that reveals vulnerability within you. And it's like sometimes that vulnerability may be enough to really come in and start to throw you off your game. Well, when I said that, what I meant was like with them assisting you, like that could be them giving you ideas, that could be them giving you information, that could be them bringing a connection back. But what you have to do in the physical is like actually follow up on it, right? Like if they bring a connection back to you that has an opportunity, then physically you have to follow up on that opportunity. If they pull your attention in a certain direction, then physically you have to follow up on it. That's what I was talking about. That like they would be assisting you, but you would have to physically follow up. Like you got to put some follow up into it. That's what I was talking about. But like Right. No, I wasn't talking about love either. I just meant like in general. Maybe, kinda. I remember you set out a whole bunch of that one crystal, and I was like, "Girl, is you trying to like you trying to go to the moon? Is you trying to leave Earth? Like, do you have anything to ground all that high level energy you calling in? Or are you just like trying to get teleported, beamed up somewhere?" But yeah, and I don't know, maybe that's another thing, real quick, since we touched up on it. Maybe that's another thing that we as people need to make sure we do. Um, is make sure that we're like energetically like balanced, right? So like let's say you're trying to let's say you get crystals to open up your crown chakra to receive messages or whatever. If you don't do anything to ground yourself, to ground that information, you may not even retain all of what you're getting. Let's say like you're trying to do something with your solar plexus. If you don't do anything with your sacral to compensate that extra power with some creativity or to give it a direction to flow in, then it's like because all of the chakras work in balance anyway. And so if you supercharge one thing, like sometimes you do one thing to put it in balance with everything else. But if you're supercharging something, you want to make sure you're also balancing that energy at the same time. Because an overactive chakra can be just as bad as an underactive one. You just thought it was for protection? Oh, that, yeah, I remember. Girl, you ain't done that yet? Mimi, I told you to do that months ago. I told you that as soon as you told me you got them. But that's like, I ain't trying to, I know that you don't mind getting thrown out there like that. I know you kind of do, but you really don't. But like, that's one of the things it's like, because when I told you to do that, you had said that other people were already telling you to do that. And so that's the energy of like some of those things that, like we know we should do it. Other people constantly tell us to do it. We get these constant reminders, and sometimes spirit will give us confirmation through other people. And so it's like, the longer we wait to move on the things that we know we should do, like we're holding other things up and we're holding it all back. And moving forward, like not only do we need to be like addressing the shadows as they come up to be healed and not suppressing the shadows, but if it's other stuff like that that we know we should be doing, we also need to be doing that. And it's stuff that I know I should be doing that I ain't necessarily doing. Kinda. You also gotta differentiate like what societally or physically you think you should be doing and what spiritually you should actually be doing. And sometimes the physical stuff needs to be done, but sometimes there are some things that we think we need to do because of whatever reason that we may not actually sort of need to do in real life. I mean, I did tell you to wear some just to like keep it on your person, since like because I didn't know if like you would get enough to ground it. And I think at the time you said because you said you had like a few extra crystals around, and I was like, oh well, like as long as you keep it on your person, then it's kind of sort of at least it's with you, even if it isn't in the grid. Like you still got that on lockdown, like by you. But if you could also work it into the grid, then that would. You know what? Let me say, talk to somebody who know how to set up crystal grids, girl, because I don't know anything about grid and crystals. I don't know too much about crystals at all. In my mind, when I heard it, all I knew was that that specific crystal you was working with had some functionalities outside of just protection and like you could be blowing like stuff, and that's another thing about crystals is like some of them have a lot of properties, right? It's like, oh, you got this for protection, but what about the side effects? Side effects including blah 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 blah. Like you want to make sure you're looking at all of it. Again, I don't. I would just that's my ideology because I don't know a lot about crystals, and I want to make sure like I account for everything if I'm working with something I don't know. Yeah, like I would say talk to somebody who actually know that. All I know is that if you tell me something energetically, to me, it may feel some type of way, right? I don't know nothing about crystals, but if you telling me you got a whole bunch of crystals for your crown or your third eye, then I'm like, ooh, that's a lot of information. To me, that sounds like energetic information overload. So you probably want to make sure you have something to ground you at the same time. Like I don't know nothing about crystals, but I know that you should probably be a little grounded. Um, yeah, and I know hematite. I've heard that hematite is really, really, really good for grounding too. So you know, don't ahead and put them up. Everything in balance. You know, even the chakras have to be in balance. This is interesting. That this the Reaper is coming for this Ace of Pentacles, and the whole world is over here too with this Five of Swords. What is this talking? This talks to abstinence. In order to get this new world, overall, there's gonna have to be a whole lot of like personal stuff in our own world that we do. It's reflective and refractive. Oof. See, like this is the stuff that I want to be talking about. Like I want to be talking about this level of stuff. I don't necessarily want to be talking about. Oh, look, the Emperor at the cut. Y'all can't see him. Oh yeah, you can. The Emperor cutting to the Emperor with this Five of Wands still at the bottom of the deck. I don't know. I might. It's almost 2 hours. I'm gonna probably shut it down here fairly soon. I did an I Ching. Let me do the I Ching around the world and the Ace of Pentacles. Oh, well, that came out. Oh, there we go. 2 cards right there. The Moon. Oh, girl. How did I get 4 cards? How I get 5 cards? 6 cards? They just keep coming out. They just keep. Oh, girl. Oh, girl. Okay. Oh, I'll take it. Oh my gosh, this is literally the lunar eclipse. This is literally the lunar eclipse. We have the moon in the world. Earth, the lunar eclipse is what happens when Earth's shadow is cast over the moon, and then the keeper at the bottom of the deck. Girl, let's get into it. Somebody knew. Oh, y'all can't drop this juicy juicy on me and expect me not to take a bite. Let it gush in my mouth like a gusher. Let me, oh goodness. Oh, let me stop. Oh gosh, what was that? Oh, that got real nasty in my brain, y'all. That is not um, not. Uh, I'm multifaceted, multidimensional. Okay, I can be in multiple energies at once. Oh, 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 oh. No, 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 no. I need to turn my peaceful meditations up. I can barely hear. One moment, please. I gotta look at this I Ching. I Ching. Ba ba da. Do do do. Girl. Girl, bye. You need one more stone for the last corner. Let's get into this I Ching. But yeah, what was I talking about? This moon and the world being like literally right there, girl. That's eclipse energy all day. Here's this king of wands, the archangel of glory. And it's interesting because he's what kicked off that whole little whatever that was. But we also got the Ten of Cups up here with the Four of Swords and the Three of Pentacles with this Keeper over here. So some of the best things that are about to come out of this, we may not even like whatever's been kept from us, we may be getting that release. You know, in that song, when they say open the floodgates of heaven, let it rain, girl, it may be raining blessings. But while it will be raining blessings, it will also be raining lessons. We'll be getting blessings and lessons. And you successfully navigate through the lessons to get even more blessings. So don't get caught up in the blessings and neglect your lessons, because you can lose them blessings just as quickly as you got them. They say the Lord giveth and the Lord can taketh away, and he will. And he will. So this is actually double earth energy with the Ace of Pentacles in the world. I'm not surprised. Like, what else would it be? Wow. Double earth is divine yin, I believe. It's number 2. Yeah, this is divine yin, supportive power. In the beginning, there is darkness and confusion. Yet deep in that darkness, attainment awaits. The way to success for you is by being receptive and yielding. Yielding is the true way to lead. No need for greater ambition at this time. Be content and at peace with what you possess. Harness the force and power of soft earth. Like the earth, the sage accepts the character of all, for better or for worse, and nurtures all with compassion, without exception. And so that's telling me, remember how that death card was looking at the Ace of Pentacles, the bread of life, and then the Keeper was on the other side. Whatever is falling away, whatever is happening, roll with the punches and go with it. To fight it is to slow it down, whatever it is. Blessings and lessons coming in. Take them both astride. Take them both astride. So we got the Moon, the World, the King of Wands, the Ten of Cups, the Four of Swords, and the Three of Pentacles with this Keeper. This is a lot. So the whole world is going through this transformation. So we're going to be going through a collective transformation and a personal transformation. And I saw that when it comes to eclipse energies, eclipses always speak to the collective, like the whole world. So I guess now would be a good time to manifest world peace, right? Or I guess you manifest on new moons. So now would be a good time to release any, what's the word? To release anything that will keep your heart closed. So we can open the collective, to release heart chakra blockages. Because, you know, the whole world could use some release when it comes to the heart. And again, I feel like I need to clarify, I'm not trying to diss anybody who gets energy work done, and I'm not trying to discredit energy work, but energy work that doesn't accompany any physical change will just block those chakras right back up. And I will go on the record and say that you don't need energy work done to remove blockages in your chakra. Like, each chakra relates to a certain area of life or a way of being. And what you need to do is clean up your own self, and then the chakras will naturally clear themselves, right? Sometimes it do be a little extra clogged up and you need a little bit of help though, right? But again, you want to be pairing that energy work with actual work on your part. Okay, so yeah, the Moon and the World. This, to me, the Moon and the World with the Keeper is saying to me that there are certain experiences, certain things that you've been wanting that were kept from you. The Moon and the Ten of Cups with the Four of Swords, it's telling me that there may be a lot of anxiety around what things will look like, but when things actually come to the light, they're going to work out in a way, and especially like the Moon, the Ten of Cups, the Three of Pentacles, and the Four of Swords are all telling me that this is going to be a lot easier in practice than you fear that it might be. Especially these three, the Ten of Cups, the Three of Pentacles, and the Four of Swords, like, this doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be a struggle. It really doesn't. They say some of the best things in life are free. Love doesn't have to be hard. Love can be easy. Love should be easy, but it's all of the unaddressed issues, the unaddressed trauma, the baggage that we carry around that makes being in a relationship with someone else difficult. Being in a relationship with anyone can be difficult if you're not facing yourself, if they're not facing themselves, and if you're not facing each other. And it's a lot easier to nitpick with someone else and to see their faults and their wrongs than it is to see yours within you. And so it's like there are all of these outside factors that people pick up that people don't address when they enter situations, and then they feel some type of way about the whole space, right? And it's like, don't blame love, don't blame the journey, don't blame the stuff because you fall into these karmic cycles that you don't address, or that you continue to give time to people stuck into karmic cycles that they don't address. This is gonna be, it's not gonna be easy, but it's like this dynamic is gonna be easy. And this isn't necessarily about love, but this is the area of fulfillment because the Ten of Cups is here. And the Archangel of Grace is here. The Angel of Art and Grace. Like, hello? This is going to be something that we enjoy, and it's also going to be something that brings us fulfillment. Now, if you already had this queued up, if you were already acting in alignment to get this to turn, then this full moon Capricorn lunar eclipse will be releasing that, right? Because they say that full moons are all about releasing. It's like the light fills up, the moon fills up with light when it goes from new to full. So that's the time to manifest something, I think. And then when it goes from full to new, all of that light pours out and then it empties. So if you've put in 10 cups worth of work, you may be seeing all of this pour out when this eclipse happens, right? But again, this is probably going to be something that you've already put yourself lined up, something that you've already lined yourself up to receive before this like portal opens up, right? If you set yourself up for good karma, you're gonna get good karma. If you set yourself up for more karmic lessons, you're gonna get more karmic lessons. Honestly, it feels like everybody is gonna be getting some lessons because even if you get these blessings, it's like they're paired with lessons. Like if you've been manifesting more money, and if you've manifested enough money for your lifestyle to change, it's going to come with an adjustment period. It's going to come with, okay, like you have more opportunity now. So um, all of the patterns and behaviors that you had associated with that lack mindset, that lack mentality of not having enough money or preparing for some kind of disaster and constantly stocking money, like whatever you had associated with a lack mentality, you're going to go through the lessons of breaking those down and coming into a mentality and a set of behaviors, a pattern that isn't associated with that, right? Like if you've been manifesting a relationship, and if you've done the work, like if you've done the majority of the individual work, so now you can come to the set of group work. And group work is easier when you have two people who have already done the individual work, or two people who are in this, like in the mindset of doing individual work. So if something individual comes up, it's like, hey, babe, like, I love you, but I got to call you out on this. It's not to attack you, girl, but this is something that you need to address. And it's like, okay, bet. Like, can I get some assistance with this? It's like, oh yeah, sure. Like anything I can do to help you through this, girl, I can help. Right? I can be a little bit patient, and then you expect the same from them. But then it's still going to come with lessons of learning somebody else and learning to integrate someone else into your life, right? And again, with the Three of Pentacles right next to this Four of Swords, I feel like this isn't going to be as difficult as it has been in the past. The Four of Swords comes after the Three of Swords and before the Five of Swords. Like, this is the card of recuperation and regeneration and peace. And it's interesting because the Five of Swords just came out with this world. So something about this partnership, if this is a partnership for you, is going to be crucial for whatever this is. And something about this partnership, it prepares you to have your personal world transformed. And maybe this is the transformation, right? Because the world came out by itself, and the Ace of Pentacles came out by itself. And then that Five of Swords was the card at the bottom of the deck that kind of sort of connected the two. But here we see the Four. And this doesn't even have to be a relationship with someone else. This could be you preparing yourself to collaborate with other people, right? We can collaborate. Our teams work their best when everyone is doing their individual part. And that could be a part that you play within a smaller fraction of the larger collective, right? Let's say you're part of a mini collective of light workers or spiritual warriors whose job it is to transmute, right? Let's say you're part of the transmutation core. And so you do your personal work to make sure that whatever you need to help transmute, you're transmuting, right? And I talked about this yesterday because I was like, some of us spiritually, like we were given a spiritual blank check. And if we write large sums of money on that blank check, we're going to be doing lots of work. And if one person slacks, someone else may have to come in and do the work. But if someone else is doing your work, you're going to miss out. You're going to lose out on some of that money, right? Because it's fair compensation. You get compensated very fairly. I think the prime energy here is this Moon card. Because this Moon energy, when not dealt with properly, will have us miss out on opportunities that are for us. We get so worried about the dark that we wouldn't show up and shine our light. And it's like, girl, you a whole gosh darn light. I don't think the sun is afraid of the dark, because wherever the sun is, there is no dark, right? Now, a star, on the other hand, I think a star would be more afraid of distance, though, than it would be the dark. Because, if a star is close enough, it'll be bright. But anyway, that's what this, like, whatever this energy is, with the Keeper coming out at the bottom of the deck, again, it feels like something that was kept from us. Girl, you can't even see this Moon card no more. There you go. I wanted to separate it from the rest. Something that was being kept from us, probably for good reason, will be returned. But it will come with lessons, right? Like, I can buy you a brand new car, but I got to teach you how to drive it. You can get a pony, but you got to teach you how to ride it. Got to teach you, what food is good for it, how often it needs to be fed, grooming, right? Stuff like that. Anything that we're going to get is going to come with some sort of lesson. It's going to come with some sort of learning curve, because this is the Moon. It's not the sun. I don't think we know how to fully interact and engage with this yet. But as long as we're open to learn, it will continue to unfold blessing after blessing. And that's kind of sort of the energy I'm getting with this Ten of Cups. It's like we're presented with the initial cup, but the more dedicated we are to learning and growing, the more we learn how to use it. It's like we'll get each cup with each lesson we conquer. And then by the end of it, we'll have all 10. But it starts with the 1, right? So anyway, that's where I'm going to leave this today. Today was really, really, really interesting. Extremely interesting. Girl, like, let me go through some kind of spiritual evolution, please. Because, like, I don't know. I feel like I'm really, really, really good at, like, blessing other people and creating fortune for other people. But when it comes to myself, girl, maybe it's because my Jupiter is natally retrograde in Libra. Right? The other people part is Libra, and the better for other people part is the retrograde. Can't do it for me, but I can do it for everybody else. But that's another lesson that I need to learn. And it's interesting because it opposes my Venus, right? And maybe the reason why is because it was a lot easier for me to love and show love and treat other people with love more so than it was for me to love myself and to care about myself enough to go as hard for me as I do for other people. So, you know. All right. Yeah. I guess I'll go ahead and I'll say if you found this video in particular, and if you watch this video in particular, there's lots that you're capable of, but for those of whom much, for those who have great potential, great responsibility, and great learning is demanded. Not only required, it's demanded. And there will be a proportional dispensing, right? So I want to see what's around the Fool. I want to see what's around the Fool and the Strength card. I haven't really done this in a minute. Y'all remember when I used to just pull the energy? Oh, I'm feeling this energy. Let's see what's over there. Oh, now I'm feeling that energy. Let's see what's over there. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling that. Girl, I got 3 Fools in this deck. Hello? I guess we'll look at... Well, the Seeker is already here. Or the Keeper is already here. So around the Initiate is the Ace of Wands, which we saw earlier. So the Ace of Wands and the King of Wands. We saw both of those first round. The Initiate, which is the brand new Fool, and the Two of Swords. This, I feel like this is about going off of what you feel more than what you see and what you currently believe. Next, so I guess I'm looking for the Keeper and the Strength card. Right, because if something is brand new to you, then you're not going to know how to engage with it. Right? And that's a whole gosh darn Ace of Wands. So that's brand new. This is a new idea given by the divine. Where's this other card at? Oh, here's the Strength card. Oh, of course. Of freaking course. See, I shouldn't have went looking. I almost escaped this reading without seeing your face. Goodness. So we have the Seven of Cups, the Corruptor. Actually, this is beautiful. We have the Seven of Cups, the Corruptor, Strength, and this King of Swords, the Archangel Commander. So this is us having the strength to actually cut out those behaviors that aren't good for us. In some decks, the Seven of Cups is all about options. And this deck in particular, the Seven of Cups is the Corruptor, so none of those options are good. Okay, so 2 interesting things to note. None of the options are good, so it's about cutting out all of the... It's interesting. So this is about cutting out all of the corruption and manifesting something brand new. Right? And it's not to say that this energy over here is all self-work. Because the corruption is the 7 deadly sins. So any vice that you have, that's what you're cutting out. So this cutting out may not necessarily be somebody else. This is things that you're cutting out within yourself. And if someone else doesn't vibe with a corruption-free you, then they're not you. If someone else speaks to, if the presence of someone else makes you inherently more corrupt, then girl, get rid of them. But if not, then keep them around. We have the Sun card and Judgment that came out together, which is 19 and 20. And we do have the World right here. So the Sun and Judgment. So all of this was hidden by the Moon. But the verdict will be very public. Very public. I think this is also asking us to bring a little bit of an element of lightness to the situation, and maybe not, it's not to not take it seriously, but it's to make sure, we're also indulging in some lighter energies. What's also interesting is that the Kings of Pentacles and Cups are together. So the Archangel of Healing is right next to the Archangel of Mysteries. And I feel like this is saying there's almost with the moon here, and that's what I was talking about. The moon is bringing up a great anxiety. It's bringing up a lot of fear or worry or mistrust related to all of this. And it may be self doubt. But this was kept from us for a reason, and it's being returned to us for a reason. If you weren't ready for this, the keeper would not be bringing it back. But there is the fear here of not being worthy. And so, with the Archangel of Healing, with the Archangel of Mysteries, I feel like this is affirming that, like, if this is coming back, you've healed enough for this to be brought back to light. The Archangel of Healing is the angel who illuminates the shadows, right? This is all of this is coming out of the darkness because you've healed enough to pursue it. So if you miss out this time, it's purely you. Also, the Holy See and the Healer are together, Taurus and Aquarius. I'm not going to pull that. Actually, I will pull that because right now Uranus is in Taurus, and that's this energy. I haven't heard it. No one's been talking about Uranus for a minute, or maybe I'm just not watching them. Uranus has been real quiet, y'all. Whenever the rebel goes silent, I'm concerned because that means something is about to probably blow up. The rebel has planted the bomb. I repeat, the rebel has planted the bomb. Like, we ain't heard from that rebel in a minute. What's going on, Uranus? What you up to? The 6 and the 7 of Pentacles are together with the 8 of Wands right after that. Interesting. Where's the Seeker? I found the Strength card. I guess I'm not going to get the Seeker. I'm not going to look for the Seeker because I didn't catch it on the first pass. And I was looking for the Fool and already got the Initiate. So that's everything. Uranus is a planet of unexpected changes. So again, when that rebel goes quiet, you know they're probably up to something. And I kind of sort of love it. I was like, Uranus probably, the rebel probably didn't planted a bomb. Girl, tower moments. This tower is so freaking like unexpected. It ain't even pop up. But it's a good one. It's a good one. Girl, I meant like I mean like what Uranus is doing in the transits right now. I did see something about Jada and Will earlier. It was like, do they have an open marriage with August Alsina? I was like, girl, what? It's been with all of this, it's been so much drama popping up on my little YouTube timeline. I'm not entertaining none of it. I will get a final message though, y'all, because y'all know I like to do that before I put these away. Before I put these away. Well, let's see. Uranus is super, super early Taurus. It may be like 10 degrees. It's probably like 9 degrees. The moon, when I looked earlier, was at 8 degrees. So the moon will be trining Uranus before it conjuncts. Actually, let me look. Uranus might be trining the moon as we have this lunar eclipse in Capricorn. It might be close enough to be trining the moon. Oh, I almost freaked out about y'all seeing my phone. But y'all can't see it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Mind your business. So, yeah. So the sun is 13 degrees Cancer, which means the full moon is going to be at 13 degrees Capricorn. We're at 10 degrees Capricorn right now. So in 3 degrees, we'll have that full moon. And Uranus is 10 degrees Taurus on the dot, 10 degrees, 0 minutes. So Uranus will be trining this full moon lunar eclipse. Uranus is going to be trining it. Now I'm a little bit concerned. Now I'm a little bit worried. And I will be honest, I haven't watched Like usually, sometimes I watch the Leo King's Deep Astrology, and I watch some other people, but I've been feeling some type of way about astrologers, kind of, sort of. So I ain't been watching nobody. So I'm sure, I'm sure at least the Leo King is talking about how Uranus is trying up this full moon in Capricorn. Oh snap! Don't it seem like don't it seem like everybody is though, low key? I kind of, I guess. See, like I don't want to say I never, but it seems like part of what a lot of people speak of the twin flame journey as, some of it low key is just like life, right? In life, you're going to have karmics that teach you lessons, and you're going to have soulmates. Like everyone has soulmates, I believe. Maybe unless you like fresh, like this is your first incarnation, then maybe you don't have no soulmates. But if you've been here at least once and you was with somebody last time and y'all gelled and y'all worked really well, hey, to me that's a soulmate. And if you was here once and there were people that you ain't gel with and y'all just didn't get along, then sound like it could be a karmic to me. So it's like how much of the journey is just like life. Like going through life, we all have dark nights. Everyone experiences tragedy, right? Tragedy and dark nights aren't anything specific to the twin flame journey. Karmics and soulmates aren't anything specific to the twin flame journey. Spirituality isn't necessarily anything specific to the twin flame journey. Ooh, Queen of Pentacles. Bottom of the deck is the Strength card. Sorry. This is the bottom of the deck. This is what came out as the top. I am going to I Ching that. I feel like the only difference comes in when you talk about the nature, and then the Fool is the card on the top of the deck behind this Queen of Pentacles. Let's get it popping. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Oh, wait, what? July was off the chain. Yeah, I mean, but everybody got divinity in them. So I feel like having divinity in you doesn't even make you a twin flame, right? We're all created in the image of God. We all have a spark of source consciousness within us. So divinity doesn't make someone a twin flame, right? I would say it's more so the nature of the connection. And the nature of the connection isn't anything that is necessarily like journey specific. Um, I would say it's kind of sort of I don't know. I'm not going to say what I would say it is. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's kind of sort of like, let's slap a label on it, make people feel extra special, and blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm not going to say that it's not real. All I would say is that from the outside and from what a lot of people, I would say it seems like people confuse a journey of awakening with the twin flame journey. And the twin flame journey involves a journey of awakening, but there are a lot of people who go through awakenings, right? Like dark nights and stuff like that. That's not specific. There are some like people like a midlife crisis. We have a word for it. It's a midlife crisis. Lots of people have midlife crises. Lots and lots of like so many people have midlife crises that we have a word for it. It's a midlife crisis. Some people hit it early. We call it a quarter life crisis, right? I had a quarter life crisis. I really did. I had a quarter life crisis in it was a year, the academic year of 2016, 2017. That was my quarter life crisis. And so I would have been like 23, 24 when I had my quarter life crisis, girl. It was real. It was real. Girl, but even that, and like, if you really look at it, Even the age gap ain't even really like there are so many like especially no both ways like cougars have been a thing for how long and sugar daddies have been a thing for how long like even the age gap ain't even like necessarily specific to the twin flame journey, right? It's like 11 years between my parents, and that's standard, that's run of the mill. That's I told you that's what the I said all of this in December. I said all of this in December. I said it seemed like so many people take it, and what they do is like it seemed like the narrative of what the twin flame journey is. It's first of all, it seems like it's general to a spiritual, just like a spiritual awakening in general, or a journey of awakening in general. And anyone who is meant to be spiritually awakened in their lifetime, like that's something that you signed up for. That's something that would have happened from the beginning. And with the Great Awakening happening, there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people going through spiritual awakenings right now. That's kind of sort of what makes the Great Awakening work. And then here come this, and then people make it really karmic. Like, oh, like, you know, your twin flame, they'll cheat on you, they'll abuse you, they'll do this and they'll do that, but that's your twin, so you just got to put up with it. It's like, girl, what? And that was the first I had heard of twin flames was hearing people say, oh, like people use the twin flame journey and the twin flame label to justify abuse and cheating and stuff like this. I was like, what? And so, like, what it would look like, I don't know. But I will say that I feel like there is some validity to it. Um, right. And that's why I showed you, like, I sent you that one video, and they just randomly popped up on my timeline. The Twin Flame Guides, I think that's their channel name. And what I really liked about what they said, they were like, you know, if there is an ascended soul or a soul that is powerful enough that it can split itself into and incarnate in two different bodies at the same time, then like, you know, that's a twin flame. And that's already different than like, you know, well, it isn't, but it's already different than, you know, you have a soul split and like there are two people who blah, 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 whatever. It's like if you're on the twin flame journey, if you're an actual twin flame, it's probably for a purpose, right? Souls don't just split for no reason. And it's like there's something that your soul can learn from one perspective and something that your soul can learn from another perspective at the same time, and then work together to do something that it can do alone. Girl, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. It sounds like Karmicsville to me, and I don't necessarily need to be like that deep in karmic energy. So I'm good. I'll sit out. I pass. Um, and it just sounds tragic. I feel like it would just make me heated more than anything. But at the end of the day, it's like some of that stuff ain't even real love, and it's like it's so interesting because it seems like the twin flame journey is about a lot of stuff except love. Like, where has the love been in the twin flame journey? Like, yes, part of it is about your own personal growth, and part of it is about, you know, spirit growth and I guess soul growth in some ways, but soul growth and the aspect of you connecting to your soul more so than like your actual soul evolving or growing. But where was the love, right? Because I feel like if love was in it, you should be able to be like, okay, if this person is abusing you and treating you like that, that ain't real love, sis. That's not your twin. Move on. If this person is doing that and they're doing that, that ain't real love, sis, bro. That ain't your love, dude. Like, if it ain't no love with it, it ain't no real twin. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, girl. It's like it's about everything but love. But it's like they're selling you love. Like that's the whole thing, right? It's like they're selling you love, but it ain't no love nowhere in the equation. It's like, where is the love in the product that you're selling me? And not just like love on the box. It's like on the ingredients, they list love, or it'll be like love substitute, right? No actual love. It'll be a little asterisk on the back. They'll be like, now with more love. But then on the asterisk, on the ingredients, it'll be like, not made with any actual love. But if you don't read it, if you don't catch that asterisk, then marketing can do whatever. Girl, yeah, I don't know. And some people like that's one of the I don't want to say that's one of the reasons, but like when it comes to me, I don't, and this is, I think this is my journey in particular. I've been thinking about it because I do have a person in my life who I would consider to be um my person, but I don't feel contractually like obligated to that person. Now that person gives me a lot of stuff that I'm like pretty sure I wouldn't give. It's like, I know you've seen Hancock. It's like the movie Hancock. The relationship that Hancock and his woman, I don't remember her name, the relationship that they had, but at the same time, she was able to live with that other dude and be happy with him. Like that's kind of sort of the vibe I get. It's like I could settle for something that wouldn't be as intense and maybe find happiness. But again, like I don't feel contractually obligated to this person. And I feel like me myself, I wouldn't like for any kind of love to feel like an obligation. I would want it to feel like something that like I want and you want. This is something that we want. This isn't something that we're contractually obligated to like fulfill, right? But like that's just the kind of person I am. And so I don't know. Yeah. But in that movie, they're like, oh yeah, twins, they pair up and die. Even when it came to the Matrix, it's like, oh yeah, you escape from the Matrix. Well, reality is bleak. So it's like they're saying that it's better to be in the Matrix. Like that one dude who was like, I'm going back in. Or it's better to not be with your twin because if you get with your twin, then you'll die. You'll lose all your superpowers and you'll die. Like, girl, please. I don't know. Even when they tell the story is twisted. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's like the only thing that makes, in my opinion, in my mind, not the only thing, one of the things that makes the journey different is who you are and the nature of your soul and your purpose and your mission here. And that's why some people will say, a twin flame relationship isn't necessarily on a higher like standard than a soulmate relationship. And I would agree. But again, I would say that, like it depends on just like who you are, right? If that ain't you, it's not you, but it doesn't mean that you can't find something like where the love is comparable. Like you can have a soulmate and do amazing work in the world. Like doing amazing work in the world with a partner is not limited to twin flames. It really isn't. But at the same time, that story is a lot less appealing and a lot harder to sell to folks. Like people aren't lining up, in droves to hear you say like, oh yeah, twin flames kind of sort of at the end of the day ain't really nothing special. It's like they are, but they're not. Like you can be just as fulfilled, just as happy, and have work that is just as impactful. And you would still be getting some soul growth, right? I mean, it's profitable. Not only was it profitable, but also at the same time, the way it was marketed, it never had an end, right? It's like a cash cow. It's like what iPhones have become. are what smartphones have become. Right? Before smartphones was a thing, like before smartphones were a thing, people were perfectly fine to have their cell phone, their computer, and their TV. Now you're coming out with a device that solves all, it's like it created its own market and it sustained itself. That's it. That's how it got that far. And there was never really into it. The way like the super karmic version of the journey that was so heavily like proliferating, there was never any end to that. You're getting people chasing after karmics who A will never want them, or B it'll never work out with, but it'll keep them coming back next week getting a reading. It'll keep them not even like getting a reading from a personal like profiteering standpoint, but when it comes to the consciousness of the planet, it would keep people who are otherwise spiritually powerful and who would otherwise actually attain levels of consciousness that would affect the collective in a way that whatever the energy prevalent at the time was would like not benefit from. And so there was an energy that benefited from keeping otherwise powerful spiritual people stuck in karmic cycles and worrying and caring more about what some karmic thinks of them, when some karmic will come back and when it'll work, when in some cases it's like, girl, that'll never work because that's not your actual person. But we can spin this story in a way that'll keep you stuck and that'll keep you off the battlefield so darkness can rule and reign for a little bit longer. And then with the frailty and the ego of humanity, they fall into it because everyone wants to be loved, everyone wants to be appreciated, and everyone wants to be special. You can prey on some of humanity's greatest weaknesses all in one narrative and keep them from reaching the power that actually threatens the control that you've established. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say an alternative universe. It was just like there are so many programs of control on the planet. Like one of them getting people to go after stuff, right? Go after stuff, fame, or status. And as long as you're pursuing stuff, fame, or status spiritually, and again, that kind of sort of goes back to why a lot of people look at demiurge energy as bad. Because when people are really consumed with the material, they neglect the spiritual. And what is that? Is that Ketu in Vedic astrology? Is what happens when you go after. No, Rahu. No, it's one of them. One of them is what happens when you are so focused on the physical that you completely neglect the material. It might be Rahu. It might be Rahu in Vedic. No, I feel like Ketu is that. No, it might actually be Rahu. Anyway, in Vedic astrology, I've heard that both Rahu and Ketu are bad. Rahu is what happens when you go, or one of them is what happens when you go too hard on the physical and the material and you neglect the spiritual. The other one is what happens when you go too hard on the spiritual and you neglect the physical. And as conscious beings, as lights incarnate in physical bodies, we need to care for both the physical and the spiritual, right? You can't neglect. It's like, going full force after the light and completely neglecting the shadow. It sounds like something that we should do because we've been so heavily focused in the shadow. And because we were so heavily focused on the material, it sounds like we should go hardcore on the spiritual. But at the end of the day, we still need to have a balance between the two. It's about having a healthier balance. Uh, Girl, okay, I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, but like programs are controllers. So like you have your programs of control to control the unawakened masses. You have your programs of control to control the awakening masses, aka stuff like a twin flame journey. And then you have your programs of control to control the nearly awakened masses. And some of the programs of control for the nearly awakened masses involve all these doomsday scenarios where it's like for the people who don't have much of a spiritual battery, get them going after Jeeps and Humvees and mansions. For the people whose spiritual battery is like 25 to 50% charged, get them to long after like some, let's like give them a journey that makes it seem like they're special. They still crave love, they still crave connection. As their ability to connect is expanding, let's throw them something that's like a super, super special, super rare, super limited connection that literally anybody on a journey of awakening can resonate to. And let's have them go after that. And then for the people who are like 50 to 75 to 80% charged, let's get them to manifest some kind of cataclysm, right? And the people who are 50 to 80% charged, your belief holds a lot more weight. Your belief holds a lot more power. But we're going to get you into this program of doomsday, war, pestilence, disease, and you have to live off of the grid and set yourself back many, 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 many centuries. Not centuries. You have to set yourself back and sacrifice to be able to live and survive. Right. And then you get like when the 80 to 100%, it's like, you know what? I can break the pattern of control and not have to sacrifice my livelihood or my day-to-day life or my well-being or anything like that. Right. I can not be chipped, not have a cataclysm, not be controlled, and not be living in the middle of nowhere where I gotta, ain't no indoor plumbing and we pooping outside with the animals. Girl, please. Right? It's like the Matrix has this built-in failsafe. And the built-in failsafe of the Matrix is a destroy everything nuclear apocalypse. Like nuclear apocalypse, that's the failsafe of the Matrix when consciousness elevates to the level that the Matrix can't exist as it is. And they've had that program already running and prepared for how, like I said, since I've been growing up, I've been hearing about the end days and the mark of the beast and all of this other kind of stuff. Like, it's not brand new. There's nothing new under the sun. And it's like, people think they're escaping the Matrix, but you're participating in the end of everything. Like, girl, like, nah. And again, like, I know I speak pretty strongly, but it's like some of the most powerful spiritual people, some of the people who are more awakened, are putting energy into this end of days scenario. And that's one of the things, like my girl Queen Cup, she just came back and I love because she just affirmed everything I was already saying. When she was like, if I'm not in energy, I can't see into that energy. If I'm not in the 5D, I can't read 5D. And 3D is never going to give you a beginning of 5D scenario. 5D starts where 3D ends. And 3D, the control part of 3D, will have you see that the entire world is ending. And it's like, girl, if you shift into 5D, you would know, yes, it's still rocky. Yes, it's still uncertain. But we ain't got to have world war and famine and all this other kind of stuff. Girl, it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. But if you can't, and it's like, again, we were never in the 5D, right? So a 3D based spirituality, an antenna, a crown that is greatly attuned to the 3D, of course it always worked. But if your crown isn't attuned to anything above 3D, you're not going to see anything above 3D. And again, it's like, it's not to not be prepared. It's not to go in completely unprepared or whatever. But at the same time, it's like you can manifest the end of days because you're prepared. You can manifest the end of days because you're afraid. You can manifest the end of days because for some reason you want to know, you played so much Fallout. You want to know you want to see if you can survive in a post-apocalyptic world, right? You've taken this survival course and that survival course and this survival course, and you've acquired so much information. You just want to know if you would make it. And now you got all of these people manifesting the same outcome, maybe for different reasons, but manifesting the same outcome regardless. And the outcome doesn't care while you're manifesting it. The outcome only needs enough of the percentage of the collective to believe in it to happen. And all I'm saying is I'm pulling my belief out I'm pulling mine out. You're not getting mine. Just like I didn't fall for World War III happening in November or December. I said no. Like, people was talking about, oh, martial law this, martial law that. Now, the only time they started rolling out tanks in the military is when people started uprising. But they weren't rolling out tanks in the military to enforce quarantine. And maybe if they would have, we wouldn't have these spikes. We wouldn't have the death toll that we do have. But there were so many things that people saw. And again, I'm not here to discredit anything that anybody saw or sees. All I'm saying is, if what you see is 3D and what I'm manifesting is 5D, you can have it. You can have your 3D, and you can have your 3D timeline, and you can have your 3D outcome where you're living off the grid and everybody went to war, and you get to build civilization from the ground up all over again. And I will hold on to my 5D where there is no war, and where the control is still, dismantled, and where I don't have to live off the grid to not be a sheep, right? Because there are already people in position to rise. Like, business is already becoming conscious. Politics in a lot of places in the world is already becoming conscious. Like, consciousness is already working its way into the very systems that we're trying to change already. Like, one of my friends, Emily, she is very intimately connected to a lot of different people in the business world of many, many, many positions. And she went to a conference that was literally about conscious business. Like, it's already happening. We don't have to go off grid. Consciousness is it's already in the system, right? Like, we ain't got to go that far anymore. We don't have to go to the lengths that old programming convinced us that we had to. Because, fun fact, like, your bankers, your tellers, your governors and your leaders, your store workers, your waiters and waitresses, your programmers, your engineers, your doctors, your lawyers, everybody is going through spiritual awakenings. And as they go through them, they will be less and less and less and less and less okay with continuing in whatever position that they were in the way we were continuing before. And it's not going to require an apocalypse to get us to move to where we want to go. Like, spirit is already moving. And of course, like, the media isn't going to tell you how, like, stuff like that is happening. Of course, that's not going to be the predominant and prevailing story, but it's already happening out there. And there are enough people who don't want the worst case scenario, you know? So I don't know. It's like, is it wise to be prepared? Yeah, sure. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I'm not giving that any bit of my belief. And so it's like, I could prepare, sure, but prepare for what? Right? I could prepare for a zombie apocalypse. I could prepare for dragons to just sprout out of the earth and just start roasting everything. I could prepare for a mermaid. I could prepare for Sharknado, girl. But, like, am I going to? Like, no. If it happens, will I look like a fool for not preparing for it? Sure. But I'm not going to be one of the people in that sacred space manifesting a Sharknado because I saw a Sharknado movie. Like, I'm good. I'm good. I'm not going to allow the media. It's like, even when you think you're breaking the control of the media, you're still playing into the media's game. You're just doing the option B that they already gave you. And it's like, as soon as they rolled in, that option B rolled in, and they've been doing it at the same time. I play a lot of what if games. I just don't play what if games that don't really, like, serve me, right? And as I've become more conscious and as I've become more aware of what my mind and what my belief are capable of, it's like I know enough to know that there are certain realities that I shouldn't even be entertaining. And whenever I put physical action into something, that is reaffirming the belief I have in that. So not only like there are some things like if I think about it, it's like, yeah, okay. But once you begin to prepare, once you begin to put action into it, once you begin to actually follow through, you're putting action behind your belief. So preparation is action behind a belief. Preparation is manifesting anything, like that's manifesting it, law of attraction, just like everything else. Like just like if I want to manifest a new job and I put in job applications, like that's literally the same thing. If there's an outcome I don't want, but I hold it as a belief, as a potential, and if I put physical action towards it, that's putting energy towards manifesting something that I don't even want, right? Like I've graduated enough from manifestation 101 to know that like, I'm not doing that. But it's a game that I live in. It's like I don't know. I don't. This may be one of those points where we just see it differently because I don't understand what you're saying. Like the mind is extremely powerful, and if I see it as a game, then sure it becomes a game. But I still don't know why I would choose to see it as like a zombie game, as an apocalypse game, as like I don't play Resident Evil. I don't play Call of Duty. Like, even when it's games, I don't play those. Like, I don't play the Saw games. I don't watch Saw. I don't watch horror movies. I don't play those games. I don't watch those movies. My mind doesn't go there. And if it is a game, it's still my real life lived experience. So if I have to play the game that I create, why would I create a game I don't want to play? I still don't understand. Like, like I'm still living this regardless of how I think about it and regardless of how I treat it, right? I feel like when people say treat life like a game, or at least the way I've always interpreted it, it's like, you treat life like a game, treat it like a dream, make it what you want it to be. And I don't want Resident Evil. I don't want Call of Duty Zombies. I don't want Plants vs. Zombies. I don't want one of those Civilization real time war strategy games. Like none of those games I want. Like I'm getting technical and serious because like this is my actual life and this is the world and reality that I live in, right? So and a lot of times people do that. It's like, would you like rather do this or do that? I'm like, girl, neither. I'd be like, sometimes you got to remember no is a complete sentence. And I can be that person. I can be that person, high key. Because there are just some things that I don't entertain, right? And I've always been that kind of person. Like, there are just some things I don't entertain. Like, why would I entertain this? I don't know. Like, there are some people that entertain stuff like that, and there are some people who don't entertain stuff like that. And I'm very much so the type of person to not entertain stuff like that. And the people who know me. So, like, if you already know I can't take a joke, then why would you come to me and try to joke? Like, it's not personal or anything, but like if I am who I am, I'm not going to be who I'm not. So if you present the question, I'm going to give you a serious answer, especially if I'm in the space of like giving serious answers, right? It's like if I wanted to go to the movies and see a movie, then I would do that. But what I'm talking about right now is like, and especially this, like on the day of this huge like lunar eclipse, like portal girl, like I'm keeping it serious today because I know that anything I think and anything I speak, even if it is a game, it has power. And like if like again, like I know that everything I say and think like has power. And right now I'm trying to be as intentional as I can with my words, with my thoughts, and with my actions. And so I'm going to make sure that they all align with the outcome that I actually want. And it's been working for me so far. So I'm gonna keep doing it. Girl, mm-mm. I can lighten up again, like when I get to that point. Like lighten up doesn't necessarily mean don't take things seriously. At least to me, it doesn't. And there are some areas where I can be lighter, and there are some areas where I'm not. And this, especially at this time, this is one of those areas where it's like I don't even want to entertain it because there is so much power being put into that right now. I don't want to just like accidentally slip up and then be like, "Oop, no, that's my reality." Like, girl, I'm sorry, but like, I can't. Like, I'm not going Jacob. I'm not going Joshua or Caleb this and be like, "Okay, you know what, Israelites, if y'all want to wander, I'm gonna wander with y'all." Like, I can't do it today. I can't. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe after it's all over, I'll lighten up and be like, "Oh, girl, what would have happened? What would have happened if that would have went to the left?" Then, if it's in the past, I can play what ifs. If it's already happened, I can lighten up. If it ain't happened yet, I'm like, I just can't. I can't. It's been my lesson. It's been my lesson. I can't do it. It's like be careful of what you think. Be careful of what you say. Be careful of what you entertain. No, I still go outside with my mask on. I ain't telling y'all I don't go outside with my mask. We got hand sanitizer in the car. We wash our hands. We got the mask. I go out prepared in that way. Like, yeah, but like that's the extent. I'm focusing on things that are like right now. And a vision is powerful. I'm trying to counteract a lot of stuff over here right now. You know. So yeah, that's it. You know, I don't know. It's just like the what if games I like to play is like what if aliens invaded tomorrow? Not invaded. What if aliens came tomorrow? Like how would our world change? How would our day-to-day life change? Like what the way we see each other changes? Like what technology would they be bringing? Like what kind of medical technology? What kind of quality of life improvements would we be able to expect? Like, that's the what if stuff I play. Like, what the math? See, I mean, that's where stuff gets delicate, though. Like, if that's something that you want to do, that's fine. But in my opinion, like, there's a difference between hypotheticals and like what is actually happening, right? And for the people who don't wear one, who are manifesting not getting sick, like, more power to you. I'm not gonna say it's not gonna work because I mean that's just as powerful. But when it comes to me and like what I'm doing, I'll follow the protocols and procedures that I deem as not too much of an inconvenience or not too much of a hassle. And when it comes to other stuff, I'll do it. Like there are some people who rebel just to rebel, or like who are always rebels because that's like something within them is to always rebel, to always be different, to always go against the grain. I'm not that kind of person. Like I follow rules. I'm a rule follower. I've been called a goody goody two shoes. Like when it makes sense, I follow it. When it doesn't make sense, I rebel. Right. What's actually happening is apparently people are dying. And I don't know. It's like I don't need in my mind, it's like such an inconvenience that it doesn't matter, right? Like if I see a whole bunch of people evacuating a building, like if I see a whole bunch of people running out of a building, regardless of what's happening inside the building or not, I'm probably not going to walk into it. If I hear a fire alarm going off, regardless of if I see the smoke and the flames and smell it or not, I'm going to exit the building. Right? In my mind, it's like it's one of those things where it doesn't really too much affect me either way. Like I got to wear a mask, okay. You know what I mean? Now, if we're talking about like manifesting something on the level of like creating like apocalyptic situations, in my mind, like that's something completely different. Or if you're talking about like everything else, again, like I don't have to rebel against everything. I'm not the type of person that has to question everything. It's like if something doesn't make sense to me, if something doesn't sit right with me in my spirit, then I'll ask questions. But if I don't have a reason or if I don't feel a need to question it, it's like, you know what, I'm gonna do my part. Because ultimately at the end of the day, I feel like this situation is so interesting because it's like regardless of if it's real or if it's fake, like there are some people, it's like I don't know, I care enough about other people and I'm not going to say that people like don't care, but like in the case that I am wrong, I'd rather look out for me and the people that I care for. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we just see it different, you know, cuz yeah, in my mind it's like if I get sick, I'm going to get sick. Yeah, sure, but you know, if I die, like whenever it's my time to go, it's my time to go. But I'm not necessarily like crossing the street in front of semi trucks, trying to overdose, jumping off of cliffs, or doing anything else. If there's something within my power that I can do that is reasonable and understandable, and to me it's reasonable and understandable, then I do it. You know. And at the same time, it's like if the common belief is that if I wear a mask, then it slows down the spread. It gives us time to do whatever. Then I don't see how that's necessarily like. Again, it gets so subtle and so interesting. Okay, I don't know. I just evaluate things as risks. Like some risks, I do risks and inconvenience. And to me personally, like I don't think I'm gonna get it. Like I'm not manifesting that, but at the same time, it doesn't hurt to wear a mask when it's already out there, right? And that's the subtle thing about I don't know. Again, like I said, even with like preparing and like going off the grid, and I guess honestly, like that's one of the things that is so apparent about duality that it doesn't leave room for gray areas, really, right? Now, if I'm talking about like energetics of something and like me, like if I think this way and then if I prepare for it in a way to bring it about, It's like it's just so all or nothing, right? It's like the government is lying, they're making this up, they're doing that. It's like everything they do is a lie, nothing they say is true, everything is false. But in all truths, or in all falsities, there is something partially true, right? Or at least that's what they say. In every myth, there is a bit of truth. In every legend, there is a bit of reality. And I don't know, I'm not the type of person, again, like I don't have to completely reject everything that something says. It's like I can listen to the part that seems true and I can dismiss the part that doesn't seem true. Like I'm not going to say it was intentional, or I'm not going to say it was unintentional or intentional, blah blah blah, whatever. The fact of the matter is something is going down right now. It doesn't require too much of me to like do this, and so I'm gonna do it regardless of if it's my time or not, if I believe I'm gonna get sick or not. But it seems like there's like no middle ground. And I'm not really a type of person to go to extremes either. And so it just like there are some things to me that are less extreme, like wearing a mask, and then there are some things that are more extreme, like completely uprooting my life, going to do this. It's like I don't know. I'm too lazy. I'm too lazy for all that. It's like if something is a minor inconvenience, I can put up with it. But like living off the grid is just not me. I'm not an off the grid living type of person. And so I'm just gonna manifest the lifestyle that I want with the peace that it involves. Yeah. But what I do know is if all I gotta do is wear a mask to keep myself, you know, to limit the chances, like it's fine. Like governments are working themselves out right now anyway. The truth of it will probably end up coming out fairly soon anyway. And then it's like the better case scenario. That's what I usually go. I usually go after like the better case scenario, right? If the better case scenario is me wearing a mask and not getting sick, again, not to me extremely inconvenient, I'll do it. Now, if there was like, full people, like I don't wear gloves, you know, so I'm kind of bad. I can be bad, but I don't know. I was never one of the type of like, again, to me, it's like the things that need to be questioned, I question it. The things that don't, I don't. It's like I have a healthy level of skepticism. I'm partially like conspiracy, some stuff. But to me, it's just like not everything necessarily needs to be questioned. And that's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily too much resonate to indigo energy. Like whenever someone is talking about like indigo children this and indigo children that, it's like I'm not rebellious enough to be an indigo. I'm really not. But like when you start talking about like the crystals, it's like okay, crystals I can vibe with, right? I'll rebel if I need to. There are plenty of things that I think are dumb and stupid that I don't do. But yeah, but when it comes to like all of that stuff, girl, that's when I'm like, sorry, that's too much for me. I'm a city boy. I really am. I like my nice, like I like the temperature to be controlled. I like indoor plumbing. I like electronics and internet and video games. Like I got too much Aquarius in my chart to try to be living on the farm. Like I'm sorry, right? I don't know. I don't know, bro. It's just me. But yeah, that's why I say like it's really subtle and it gets really tricky. But mm, mm, mm. I just look at the severity again. Like I said, the severity and the inconvenience. I kind of want to pull something else. I do have these out. You won't be able to see them, but Since I do have these out and the book is open, let's see if there's any. Y'all won't be able to. I can barely read them. But let's see if there's anything that they want to say. I love this deck. Just wish I could see it. Yeah. And I know that there's a lot of like indigos, and a lot of people resonate to indigo energy. And I even talked to my grandma, and she was like, yeah, like when I was younger, I was always like rebellious. And she was like, sometimes I felt like a rebel without a cause. That's when I was like, oh my gosh, my grandma's an indigo. I am not a rebel without a cause at all. If I'm rebelling, I most certainly have a cause. I most certainly have a cause. I'm not the type of person that got to rebel just to rebel. Yeah. But again, it's like, you send in the people who are, it's all sort of like, important for what it does. And so we need people out there who question everything, and we need people out there who will buck against the system, like no matter what. Like they play a very important role. They played a very important role for getting us here, and they also play a role moving forward. But at the same time, it's like as things begin to shift. Oh, okay. Well, that card went on the flow. What is this? Oh snap! What is it? What is it? Oh, it's the Two of Cups. Okay, well, come through. I see all these roses. That's a lot of love. You can kind of see it. It's the Two of Cups. There we go. What's at the bottom of the deck? Bottom of the deck is the Seven of Coins. I saw this card before. 1 seed, 2 roses, 2 crystals, 2 root systems. There's also a tooth in the Seven of Coins, which implies wisdom. Also growth. You'll grow into it. And then the Ace of Coins, Ace of Pentacles is right there under it. I'll take my little Two of Cups. Thank you. I'm glad I pulled these. But yeah, and honestly, I feel like for me, it's been an interesting, and not an indicator, but I don't know. Because the way I look at it, or the way I've been looking at it, is less of a lens of like, is the government lying to us? Like, it's not real. Like the lens and the focus I've had, I more so look at people and how people respond. And like in the beginning, when it was like, because it happened, a lot of the lockdowns and quarantines started happening mid-March, was around spring break time. And when they showed the people of all the people who, was it PCB or was it like Miami? All the college students, they were like, yeah, if we get sick, we get sick. This isn't going to ruin our spring break and blah, blah, blah. Like I've had these plans forever. Like I look at stuff like that and I'm like, I don't know. In my mind, it's just like, it's not that hard, you know? And it's like, even if it was or is a hoax or inflated or whatever, like not everybody, but for the folks who are just like more concerned about being personally inconvenienced, more so than like if it's real or not, right? Like that's what I find interesting. That there are a lot of people who would just be like, and not a lot of people, but there are some people who be like, well, this is really inconvenient for me and for what I have planned, and I don't necessarily too much care about the rest of y'all. Because in my mind, it's like if we were all doing what we were told to be doing, and we were still having cases and stuff like that, that's what would really like that would lift the veil, right? It's like that would have been the opportunity, that would have been the moment to for some kind of exposure. And it's like, okay, well, we're all following protocols, we're all locked down, we're all wearing our masks when we have to go out. Why are the numbers still rising? Right? Then that would have been like, oh, it's an inside job. Yeah, I've been looking at how people respond from the very beginning. And that's why I would say stuff like, I don't know, that's why, like, even if it isn't real, it's such an interesting, I don't want to say test, but in the beginning, it's like, it just seemed like there were people who cared more about their own entertainment and satisfaction than the livelihood of other people and like the health of other people and the ability for other people to live. Like, that's the perspective I was looking at it with. And so for a long time, I mean, like, of course, as soon as it happens, you're like, the government is behind it, blah, 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 blah. Like, I had all those conversations with my mom in the very beginning, right? And it was also extremely curious that there were people, like, after the city of Wuhan had been quarantined, there were people who were confirmed, quote unquote, to have exactly the same thing that the people in Wuhan had, but they were being freely admitted back to their countries, multiple countries, with no quarantine, no isolation, no anything, just let back into the public. Like, that was like, I'm not going to say there haven't been a lot of interesting things, but at the same time, if they're telling me to wear a mask to reduce the whatever, like, I'm gonna wear my little mask. And if we all were following it and it was really fake, I feel like it would have been like, it would have been the perfect, like, oh my gosh, like, y'all are lying, right? Now, there are also people who will spread stuff, or I've seen somebody post stuff like they raided this one hospital in this one country or in this one city, and it was, reported to have this many patients and blah, 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 whatever. And it was empty. And then you see stuff like there was somebody who was talking, and they're like, this lady hasn't been a nurse for like 5 years, and she ain't even here no more. It's like, I don't know, it just perpetrates further confusion. And there isn't, because in my mind, it's just like I would rather do everything you told me to do and then have it fail in order to show you that you were wrong. Right? It's like, okay, you think you know better, I'm gonna do it your way. And then when this fails, it's like I did it your way. But there's no way for us to know. And then unfortunately, it's like we hear stories about other countries or other places where they actually, like follow protocol, and now their cases are low enough that they can open back up. And then it's like there's no consistency. And in my mind, that's why it's like it's so much easier, even if the narrative is fake, it's so much easier to keep it going because of what people are doing, or because of what people aren't doing. It's like there's no opportunity to be like, we've done everything that you told us to do and this is still happening. Okay, well, like, what's really happening? I don't know. It's like, even if it is fake, there's always a strategic way to go about exposing something, you know. But some people would say that some people would say that some people in certain positions are being very strategic right now, and there's going to be some major oop moments. So let's do that. But yeah, I don't know. That's why it's just like, and that's another reason why, like, I'm of the mindset, like, if it doesn't require too much of me, I'm gonna just do my little part and then we'll see. Yeah, it's all really interesting. And like, but then again, it's like if I really think about it, and this is another reason why when it comes to like real life scenarios or things that are actually happening, I don't like to play what if games because then I what if too much. Because now I'm like, because of course, like my first thought was like the government is behind it, the government is doing something, blah blah blah. But what if I've been conditioned by the Matrix to think that the government is always evil? Not that it isn't always evil, but that's also programming that I could recognize in so many video games, media cartoons, like movies, in so many narratives. Oh, the government's behind it, the government's behind it, the government's behind it. It's a cover up, it's a conspiracy. It's like conspiracy is just as much almost, it seems like conspiracy is just as much a part of the Matrix program as like going with it. It's like, what do you do? How do you actually break it? Oh, I mean, like, it was probably definitely like, I don't think it was naturally released at all, honestly. But in my mind, it's like, it doesn't matter if it was naturally released or if it was purposefully released because, like, it's out now, right? Like, if I'm in the zoo and somebody unleashed all the tigers, like, it don't matter if it was on purpose or if the tigers escaped. Girl, I'm getting out of the zoo so I don't get ate, first of all. And then from outside the zoo, I can be like, oh, I wonder if like that was purpose on purpose. And then here comes the footage of some disgruntled zookeeper who, had something against the zoo, and the people who went to the zoo, they released the tigers. Like, okay, cute. But like, it's a good thing I got out of that zoo. And like I said a while ago, like, I don't care if the fire was accidental or if somebody purposefully set this building on fire. I'm going to evacuate the building, you know? But yeah, but you know what? One of the interesting things about it is there's so much happening in the world right now. And it almost feels like it could be the case. It almost feels like it could be a potentiality that certain things were supposed to go a certain way, but there may have been like some deviations to the point where it's not completely going the way that it was supposed to go to maintain certain systems of control. But it's almost like potentially it's very like double agent, like a mole type energy. Like you can also utilize this to wake people up, right? So it could be the case. And again, it's like, when the devil went to God about Job, right? And the devil was like, blah, blah, blah. Like, I bet I can get Job to curse you, blah, blah, blah. And God was like, okay, well, there are certain things I could use that opportunity to teach Job at the same time. So, yeah, let's play the game. And let's see if Job, wins or fails. You have free permission to do whatever. But at the end of the day, Job still chose to be faithful. You know, I don't know. I mean, they say it's spread through like if you didn't like, I don't know, touch your forehead and then like, I don't know, lick your fingers or rub your eyes or something. Then like if it was just chilling on your forehead and then you like washed it off or something, it wouldn't necessarily get in you. Uh, And like the whole, like it's supposedly like viral. And the whole thing about viruses is weird anyway, because like viruses, it's like if you take some DNA and you put it like in a protein code, it's like this piece of DNA has the ability to go in and just like completely wreak havoc on the system. Like viruses are just strands of DNA or RNA that just go in and F up people's genes. It's like how is it? I don't know. It's like how is it that smart? How does it even do that? And like some people don't even consider like viruses to be alive because it's just like a piece of DNA with a protein coat. It ain't even like a bacteria where you have like a cell, you have a little nucleus and you got little mitochondria and stuff like that. It's like, no, it's just some DNA that goes in and it just attaches to your DNA and then it uses your cell to make more of it. I don't know, girl. It's a whole bunch of stuff. I'm just like, what? Okay. But yeah, I don't know. And then there was some, I don't know. I'm not gonna talk about it. It just seemed real. I don't know. And also at the same time, it is really. I don't want to speak any. I don't want to speak lightly of it because I know that there have been a lot of people who have lost their lives to it, regardless of if the cause of death was misattributed or not, because that pain is still very real to those people. And those lives are still gone, regardless, right? But it's like it's 2020 or 2019 when this happened. The world, we should have had some kind of plan in place to handle this. So maybe somebody was like, you know what, like this will show so many people that we need to be prepared for this. Like the world is so interconnected. It was like something like this was bound to happen eventually in some way or another. Like there would be some bug, there would be some whatever. People are catching flights, stuff is getting shipped from this country to that country. It's like there are these hubs. Like how many people fly into and out of LA in a given year and where are they coming from? Where are they going? Like it would be so easy for something to start in one place and then literally just spread all over the world because the world is so interconnected. Like, and then you see clips of like Bush in whatever year he was president, and then Obama in whatever year he said it about people saying like we need to have some kind of like global pandemic system in place, and then people are using that like, oh my gosh, it was planned, oh my gosh, it was planned. But in reality, like it was a potentiality and it's the truth. We should have something in place. People are flying all over the world like it ain't nothing, and it's super easy for disease to travel now, right? Like hello, it ain't, I don't know, it's not brand new. And so then it's like how much of it was bound to happen naturally at some point, and how much of it was actually like, intentional. Not to say that it wasn't intentional, but again, it's like we were just so unprepared in so many ways, and the way we treated it in so many ways doesn't, it's like it, I don't know. It could have been a really, really good opportunity to really be like, oop, and expose some people if it was planned, if it was fake. But I don't know. Sometimes you got to be strategic. And that's all I'll say. All I'll say is sometimes if you want to expose somebody or something, you got to be strategic. You got to have a certain element of strategy, right? You got to approach it like an emperor. Yeah, I just do whatever I can in my little day to day life. I keep myself like Like, I know I'm not gonna get it. I know I'm fine, but at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt to wear a mask. Especially now that I learned the trick about putting a little tissue in my mask so that it'll catch all the condensation and my glasses don't fog up. Like, now I'm really Gucci. And also, it keeps us from being in Walmart for hours on end. Because my mom is like, "Ooh, this mask is irritating. We need to go." I'm like, "Yes, let's go, please." It's already been like an hour and a half. It's so much. I mean, it's like, is the confusion any better? I don't know, girl. It's like there's sometimes you got to be strategic. That's all I'll say. Some if you want to expose people, sometimes you got to have a little bit of a strategy. And I don't know. I watched. All I'm gonna say is I watched that Above Majestic. It's on Hulu. I watched it on Hulu. I watched Above Majestic, and it was real interesting, girl. Especially the last bit of it. I was like, "Ooh, okay." And what was implied in the last bit of Above Majestic is that there are some people right now who are actually being very, very, very strategic and who are doing things in ways that are indisputable and and irrefutable. You can't dispute it and you can't refute it. You can't argue with this. And when it all come out and they're like I said, like it's they're being very, very strategic, and I'm like, okay, now this is something that I don't mind putting my faith and my trust into. This is something I don't mind putting a little bit of belief into. I really don't. And in the movie, they were like, I guess there were people who were like, did like QHHT or whatever, had whatever kind of regression with those like hypnotic therapies. Or and they would ask like, if we are under some kind of control matrix, how do we break it? And they were like, spiritually evolve and then ask for the truth. Like if there's a certain amount of consciousness, it's like it has to be honored, right? Now, if we're down here, like living like Sims and stuff like that, then it's like, oh, like look at them. They're not even conscious. They're just like, they're biological, right? They're biological. They have, certain like little robots, basically. Like we're little robots, right? Our hearts were closed, so we were treating people like monsters. And it's like, and if it's like, well, look at how they treat each other. Do you really want a race like that with the ability to commune with other races? Like they can't even play nice with each other. Imagine the plague that they would reap upon the cosmos if we allowed them to get off of Earth. Imagine, imagine. They not even taking care of their own planet. Look at them. They're like little parasites. And they're already looking at Mars. They're already looking at planets within their own solar system to go and to terraform and then to destroy and just strip. Like, do you really want them out among the stars with us, noble galactic races? And then, of course, nobody is like, yeah, yeah, like let's have the humans as they are up here. Girl, nah, ain't nobody on that. But once we reach a certain level of consciousness, once we prove that, we're not menaces and terrors, then things will be seen as actual injustices, right? You know what I mean? Prometheus. Is that another documentary or is that just a movie? Let me stop. I think I may have seen it. I'll probably get around to it here pretty soon. I don't know. It's just like I'll let it play out. I'm interested. I'm interested to see what happens. You know. But again, you can't force nobody to wake up, and you can't force nobody to love nobody, and you can't force nobody to treat nobody right. So we'll see. I don't know. I just do it to, to say I'm doing my part to make it look like I care. I mean, my little brother, shoot, he was acting like his life ain't even stopped. I'm like, bruh, you just coming over here now. Ooh, I might twist my hair up, y'all. Okay, let me stop. All right, I'm gonna end this here. I've been live for a good almost 4 hours. It was very nice conversation and nice chatting. With all of that, we opened up with the Demiurge girl, and then we ended up with the state of the world right now. I'm manifesting disclosure. When did I eat? I haven't eaten yet today. I don't think. Yeah, I haven't. I haven't eaten yet today. So I'm about to go do that now. It's almost 8 o'clock. But yeah, really interesting times ahead, guys. That let me see if my phone will tell me. Hey, I love my new lock screen. Let's go to the dashboard. The dashboard. July and go eat. I saw somebody was like, "Can you believe that June is over?" They were like, "July." I was like, "Oh my gosh." The moon is 99.94% full. It's not going to tell me. It told me when the solar eclipse. Oh, that's because it was an equinox. That's why it told me. Girl, y'all really ain't going to tell me the time? It's fine. It'll be happening here sometime soon. Well, actually, yeah, it's happening tonight at some point. So make sure y'all are doing whatever y'all need to be doing. If you got some karmic blessings being dispensed, don't run away from them. If you were good, then open up the presents from Santa. Right? It's not like some people are more afraid of getting what they actually wanted than finding out you got coal. If you don't take them presents, all right, I'll catch y'all later. Bye. Love ya. Love and light. And high vibes and peace.